Cole.
Here.
Here. Miller. Here. Ghana. Here. Boo.
Here. Okay, would everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Mrs. Cole, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Regano. Any discussion? Roll call.
Cole.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Ghana.
Yes.
Boo.
Yes. Okay, agenda item 1.4, I need a motion to approve the October 10th, 2013 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Regano, I need a second. Second. That's Mrs. Cole. Any discussion? Roll call?
Catch it up. This is for the minutes, right? Is that what we're on?
Yes.
The motion is made by
Mrs. Cole.
Oh, Mrs. Cole. No, Regano.
Regano.
I thought so. You said cool.
Let's have a vote.
Okay.
seconded by
Mr. Regano.
Cool.
Seconded by Mr. Regano. I'm sorry, other way around. Yeah. Okay. Get that? Okay, agenda item, oh, I'm sorry, let's vote. No further comments? No comments. Roll call.
Ghana.
Yes.
Boo.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes. Okay, 2.1, Springboro Education Association report. Is there anybody here from SEA?
Sarah Thornberry, Springboro Education Association, nothing to report.
Okay, welcome. And we have 2.2, Springboro Classified Employees Association report. Anybody here from SCEA? Having none, we'll move to agenda item 2.3, public participation. No one has requested to speak. We'll move on to 2.4, public participation on any agenda item. Is there anybody who would like to speak on an agenda item? Having none, we'll move on to Mr. Porter. 3.1, approval to transfer funds. Can I have a motion to approve? And then you can describe it.
So moved.
Ms. Regano, second? I will second.
Just a
And
second,
tell us-
I'm running,
Tell us about it. Okay.
getting the right buttons on this software. Okay. They're proposing to transfer the cash from the funds that are listed there over to the funds as indicated. These funds that we're moving from, the principal said, is indicated are no longer used, and we're moving them to another fund that is active. Both funds, it continues to benefit the students.
Okay, any questions? Okay, roll call?
Motion second.
I move. Second.
Mr. Regano moves.
Second was?
Okay.
Okay. Vote.
Yep. Eagle?
Regano.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes. Okay, we have 3.2, and I'll go ahead and let you talk about the 5-year forecast before we move on that.
Okay.
Describe anything?
Yes. I color coded this, there's a lot of numbers here, and I'm gonna go through it at a high level. Be happy to, delve into it to the extent possible. The 5-year forecast, can everyone hear me back there? Yeah. The 5-year forecast is for the general fund only. And this is a form prescribed by the Department of Education that the board has to submit it at least twice a year. And they should submit a revised at any time any of the material assumptions change. So this is, at this snapshot in time, the information that we're dealing with. Let's see if I can hide these columns. Fiscal year 13 is actually what happened in this district. 14 is projected, but it's based primarily on the conditions that are known today, and the board adopted appropriations for the spending of the general fund in 2014. So that one is pretty solid data, but it still is subject to change, as I mentioned, as I'll address a couple of the highlighted items. 15 becomes very much problematic. A board only operates with a 1-year appropriation. It is set by standards of the process. It starts in January, culminating in September of each calendar year for the finalization of the permanent improvement for the fiscal year. Fiscal year is July 1 through June 30th. The first item here, notice last year the real estate tax was $23,900,000. It's down to $20 million this year for 14 and 16 for fiscal year 15. This is done because the instructions say that we needed to back out the renewal of the levy. We should not assume that levy is going to pass. So these numbers have been created with that in mind. Down below, I have highlighted what the numbers will look like if the levy passes. So let's look at those numbers.
Let's not look at the other ones, you're gonna give me a heart attack.
Well, let's look at something positive. Last year, state monies, unrestricted, Springboro got 10.6 million. This year, they got 11.7 million. It's scheduled to be this year. The new funding biennium changed dramatically by the legislature, favored districts like Springboro. That number should have been over $15 million. But the state said, oh, we don't have enough money, so we're going to not allow you to get any more than 6% of what you got last year. Then they said for next year, moving toward that 15 million, you may get 12.9 million, capped at 10.5%. And from there on, the numbers are flat. The new legislature comes into place and a new governor, he may continue to move toward that 15 million, or he could change it dramatically as they did this last year. So at this time, the assumptions are assuming no more than what the law states. They only pass for 2 years. So that's the state funding. Hopefully that will get better, but when the legislature is in session, they give it and they take it. They've taken personal property away from school districts, promised to replace it. They didn't. They have to phase it out, and they're saying, well, we gave you new money here. So that's that.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
There was something on the public utility as well. Wasn't there some increase, although it's showing down, that's because of the levy calculation? Doesn't our gas pipeline money have some positive things too that are actually that we collected from last year, maybe in the future?
To my knowledge, it would be about the same, according to the county auditor, of about 7,000 more for this fiscal year. And the reason it's a little, I'll jump down here, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. It shows up, the way they told us to do it, it's in this number for both real estate and any public utilities that the levy will generate.
Right, wasn't there about a $400,000 increase in 13 from the Rockies Express pipeline? It looks like it's going to be consistent through the rest of the 5 years at least.
I'd ask. And as you can see, it went up from 12 to 13.
Is it 1.02, Mr. Porter, or 1.02?
Wait, let me get the right line here. It's 1.02. There's what you got in 12. That's what you got in 13.
So it wasn't a substantial increase, which we're carrying forward.
Yes, between that and what's down below if the levy passes.
Very good. So
Yeah.
it was a $400,000 or $500,000 increase. So over the 5-year forecast, it's about $2.5 million more dollars.
It's one time ago.
It's annual. It's that's valuation. It was the valuation of the pipeline, I believe, increased, if I recall correctly.
And once again, I need to say that this number is not totally known yet. The county auditor had just gotten notified last week of the certified values, and he had not sent me the precise money. First of all, it's precise money to anticipate, and then the company's got the window to pay it that we will collect in the first half collection of January 14th. That's paid twice a year, just like property tax.
So I have to ask for a clarification.
Okay.
The increase in pipeline money, we've had prior discussions before you were on board that we have a new pipeline that just got buried. The increase that we're seeing and reflecting in the forecast, that's for the old pipeline. So we're seeing additional revenue, and I'm looking for confirmation wherever it'll come.
If and when they file, but I don't want to get too complicated, but keep in mind, this levy that you're passing is for fixed dollar amount. And you've got another one like that. If more value comes on, you don't get any more money. The property tax will go down because it'll be distributed over a larger base. You will get 20 mils of it. So the potential is for some new monies to the district and reduction for the homeowners as more people share.
Right. But the change in the forecast, going from the 3.6 million to the 4.1 million, that's the old pipeline, not the one that just got buried.
So in other words, there's
Right, there-
no money budgeted in here for the new pipeline.
That's what I'm getting at. Thank you for that clarification.
The first time that you would be able to see monies, if the new pipeline files next November, 2014, you might see it in the second half of 15, one half of any new.
Okay. But it's not in the forecast.
Nope.
Which is.
Because I could not find any reference from anybody that had any knowledge. I had, somebody said, and I couldn't find it. Also, the county auditor shared with me, I need to be careful in the first year. It also includes any equipment they may have on site on that magic date of January 1. The next year, that equipment may be out in South Dakota. So that he shared with me, that does cause a wiggle in that, depending on where their cranes and all that are at on that day.
So we need to go lock the gates.
If you can catch them. I don't know where they're at, but no, there is nothing in this for any personal property, public utilities.
So my question is, why is it 1.020, 4 million in 13, and then it goes down 500 to 600,000?
I have to take the renewal out of that.
Oh, I see.
It's down below in a total of 3.9 million.
Okay.
It's added back collectively of lines 1 and 2 is what it's done.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, sure.
Okay. Total revenues anticipated, last year you got 43.3 million, this year, if we don't get the renewal, we're going down to this. And continuing on out. This year, you'd only lose half of it from January to June in 14, and you lose the whole amount this year. Here's what?
Got that one.
Okay, then we go down through and plug in the expenses that's been discussed. This year's appropriated this is starting to put in assumptions for 15 and 16 and beyond. There, a little later, we'll show you assumptions are in there. They can be whatever you believe it to be, and we'll see what happens. Kind of like at home, you assume your budget's here, your furnace blows up. Anybody ever have that happen? Okay, so last year, 42 million was spent. This year it's projected to be 45 million. And if that happens, and the levy fails, you're spending $5.8 million more than you're taking in. And the next year, it's 9.7 million more. And what it does, from this cash balance of 11 million, you would go to 5 million June 30th, 2014, and June 2015, it's negative 4.5 million. You cannot run in the red, so that would mean that you would have to cut between January 1, 2014, June 30th, 2015, at least 4.55 million based upon this projection. Ready to go to the more positive side of it? Here's where we put back in the 3.9 million that we would get if the levy is renewed this fiscal year. And it would go next fiscal year, it's 11 million because that's the whole year factored in plus this year. So your cash balance would go from 8.8 million to 8,086 to 6.17 million. So that's the difference. 2 weeks from now, the vote's gonna make in this budget and the forecast.
What's the 50-year forecast?
$5.5 million if all the assumptions were to come true. When you go up through here, all schools, 80 to 85% of the budget is salaries and benefits, and we have projected that at flat for year 16, 17, 18. So when you go down here, where the big part of it is we know approximately what our costs are going to be. And I want to stress approximately again, even for the salaries. You know what your negotiated salaries are, et cetera, but we don't know how many extended leaves you may have. You'll have substitutes coming in, et cetera, et cetera. And the same thing on benefits. As employees, we're going through open enrollment, they can add on. Obamacare comes on. I'm not real sure how ultimately it's going to impact us. I haven't even tried to get in the website yet, so I don't know.
It doesn't work.
Pardon? I heard it doesn't. I don't know. But I just want to stress, but we have assumed everything is flat in those areas in expenditures for the years extending beyond. And purchase services, they add budget, we add an increase this year, they do some catch-ups, and we've projected continuing at that level to kind of put it in perspective to last year. The board has indicated they certainly, especially here in supplies and materials, you're going to hear them talk about that later, construction materials, and as well as capital improvements that are needed. And then back to the question, back to the 5 years out, 2018, be 28 million levy failed. I need to also say something else about the levy. Coming back up here on the revenue side, this property tax allocation of 2.9 million. Back in the 70s, if you ever have lived long enough to know when the income tax came in, they told the taxpayers that they would pay 10% of your property tax going forward, and they've done that for more than 30 years. And if you lived in an owner-occupied home, you got an additional 2.5% discount for 12.5%. The last session of the legislature, this is an example, they give it and they take it. They've said any levy passed after the legislative effective date of July would not benefit. They then have said a renewal of a 5-year, they will pay the 12.5%. If this does not pass, and you pass something next year, you lose the benefit of that 12.5% being paid to the state. It will fall to the homeowners. So there's an example, the ins and outs every time the legislature's in session. Just like for senior citizens up until this year, anybody 65 and over got the senior citizen discount. Starting going forward, it's means tested. Anybody making earning more than, having a taxable income of more than $30,000 a year will not qualify for senior discounts. The senior homestead. Yeah.
So to make sure I understand what you said, if the levy passes, if the levy doesn't pass this November, to get the same amount, if it was to go on the ballot again, to get the same amount of dollars generated, the same amount of revenue generated, we would have to have a levy that was 12% higher.
No. The levy would pass it the same, and you would get the full amount. But the taxpayers would pay 12.5% more than they would pay for the news now.
Okay.
They've been reducing your taxes. If you look at your tax bill, it shows you a 10% discount and a 2.5%.
So you're saying the homeowner discount goes away after
On
this
new
November?
money. On new money, not on the renewal.
Well, I guess after this November, I guess if some other district had a renewal that was maybe 2 years from now, that would still be eligible, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, that's a hypothetical. We don't
yeah,
have to
and I'm not sure. At first, we interpreted anything, and they have issued an opinion that through this November, the renewal. If they renew next year, I don't know yet.
Okay. So in our case, we don't have any renewals out there. This is the renewal, and if homeowners don't, citizens don't pass it this November, they'll have, if we put the same amount on, they'll have to pay 12% more.
Because it'd be new money.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the 5-year forecast?
So moved.
That's Mr. Regano.
Give me a second to get back.
Okay.
Software.
Just to give you some time, I will need a second. You want to think about it?
Okay, I'm ready for the motion.
Okay, that was Mr. Regano moved. And I need a second. Mr. Miller. Okay, any discussion? Any questions? Roll call.
Gama,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Miller, Poole,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes. Agenda item 3.3, approval of September 2013 financial statements. Mr. Porter, would you like to tell us about that? Is there anything to report?
This was, the paperwork, it was on Mrs. Jarvis's watch, and I had the staff include that. She typically, I noticed, did a couple of spreadsheets with graphs. I didn't get time to get in and do that. I will run the graph part at the next meeting, but included in this is the
Cash reports.
right, cash reports, expenditure report, yes, as I say, that's right out of the computer system done through September. I'll put the graph overlay on it for the next meeting.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Petroni, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm being nosy on these revenues. I noticed in here the one line item, the wellness incentive. This was just something that stuck out last year. It's like $13,189. And we put different nurses or clinic aides or somebody at each level at the schools, because this was money we were getting back for participation in the wellness program. And those, actually on the employee requisitions that we have to approve, there's different positions for this that were, is this the net money? Because I thought it was like to the tune of $40,000 that we're supposed to get in incentive.
I will be honest, in the 21 days I've been focusing on operating, looking forward. That was in September. I'll be happy to look at it, but I
I
don't
was
know.
just curious.
Okay.
I'm not sure, Mrs. Cole, Lee wasn't able to make it this evening. I thought it was more like 14 or 15,000. Maybe I'm wrong. She had consolidated and had done it a little different than had been done in the past. But we definitely get back to you on that with questions and answers.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call?
Cool,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Tony,
Yeah, yes.
okay. Cole,
Yes.
I'll vote yes also.
oh, okay. So noted. I reported it already. Presumption, sorry.
It's something unusual happened. I mean, a note popped up on my screen and it said vote, so I clicked the button. That's the first time that's ever happened.
I saw that too.
And so I probably didn't show up on your screen, or if I did, you saw that I already voted.
I did hit the button, take a vote. When I was trained on this the other day, the folks were explaining to me, if all five of you had that up, many organizations across the nation cast a vote that way. So I hit the wrong button.
So you don't have to have a roll call, it just displays. Wow.
But I didn't know if you all, I'm just still learning this software.
Yeah. Obviously, we are too. All right, agenda item 4.1, policy revision, second reading. And Mr. Petrie, are you going to
Yeah,
tell us about
before I
that?
do that, though, I would like to thank Mr. Porter. He's done a lot of hard work over the past 21 days. It's been a pleasure working with him. I know he's taken time to work with each of our staff, so, you know, it's not typical, but if we could all give him a round of applause. You'll get lost at first here in Springboro. I'm just working on letting buying me lunch tomorrow. So,
I thought there was an ulterior motive and you all fell for it.
nonetheless, I haven't been in some of these meetings. I've been tied up in other meetings. So I would want to defer to policy 2210, either Mr. Regana or Ms. Strickler.
We brought that policy forward at the last meeting. What we did with this one, which is, this one's on, let me find it real quick, so I don't tell any stories. This is on curriculum development. We went out, we've been looking at some of these curriculum policies. We had obtained a Neola template for this one and thought that the template was a better policy than we had in place, and so their markups here reflect Neola's template. So you've all, I mean, this was at first reading last time. If there's any questions or comments, I can try to field those. But that's the, there's a lot of markups in this just because of how different we were from the Neola template.
Okay, you need a motion to approve?
So moved.
That's Mr. Regano. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Petroni. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Regana,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes. Everybody?
Everybody.
Always track, okay. 4.2, policy revisions, first reading, Mr. Radon.
Yeah, bringing forward two policies that came out of policy committee, 9130 on public complaints and 9140 citizens advisory committees. Let me talk about citizen advisory committees first. The only change in that policy is that down at the bottom it lists some examples of citizen advisory committees, and one of those examples was curriculum council. Well, practice in the district has been that curriculum council is normally mostly a staff meeting run by the superintendent or the curriculum director. And so we're really not operating that as a citizens advisory committee at this time. So what we did is we scratched out citizens advisory committee, but we do think that there is a role for evaluation in a larger way of curriculum materials. And so we replaced that with an academic advisory committee. I'm not sure we call it a committee, but let me just check real quick.
You're right, academic advisory council, rather
Academic.
than curriculum council.
Yeah, so the extent of the change there is just that name change with the foreseen difference between curriculum council and academic advisory council is that academic advisory would include more citizens than the curriculum council currently operates. 9130, a couple of changes in that one. That policy is on public complaints. And this policy is designed to deal with, I guess, all kinds of complaints by parents typically. The changes that we've added in here are that if someone files a complaint, what we want them to do is include the date or the time period in which the incident occurred when they file that complaint. And the reason for that is that our whistleblower protection policies would, in the event that there was an issue around whistleblower protection, if we know the date and time at which the incident occurred, then you have some measure at which point in time the protection should be invoked. So that's the purpose for that change. Later on in the policy, it talks about what to do if the complaint is about instructional material. And the process there is that the superintendent is to form a advisory committee. That committee would consist of, this is all current policy, so I'm just refreshing your recollection on this. That policy consists of that committee consists of the director of instruction, the principal, a parent, a student, a librarian, or the teacher of the subject in question. The superintendent's also a member of that committee. And they would look at the appropriateness of the material for the student's age and maturity, the accuracy of the material, the objectivity of the material, and the use that's being made of the material. The change in the policy is we also want that committee to look at whether the material is controversial and treats all sides of that issue fairly. And so the two changes, the date and time of the incident when it occurred, and then adding to the things that this committee would evaluate is the controversial nature of the issue and how that's handled. Those are the changes in that policy.
Okay, thank you. We can move on to 4.3, approval of dual credit online courses, Mr. Pinkley.
Yes, actually, the first thing, I gave you this last week. We're wanting to begin a pilot for online courses. Can you hear me now? All right, so basically what we need first and foremost, any curriculum has to be approved by the Board of Education. There's 5 different courses that we would like to offer through an online program that will take place here. We probably should have done these in different order, but nonetheless, courses do have to be approved first.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, Mrs. Cole. Any discussion?
You're gonna explain this in the next item?
And when they say prerequisites on here, there's no prerequisites.
Correct.
Because I had some parents ask me, well, there are prerequisites listed. Well, how are you gonna take the prerequisites if we don't offer these?
These are straight from Sinclair's course of study.
So the prerequisites will be deleted.
Correct.
So,
Okay, any further discussion? We didn't see this chart.
And you will be provided a syllabus for each week, well, once we get those.
And these courses, so when it's dual credit, this will count for how many English credits? Like what the typical junior would need for English credits?
I'll explain that in the plan.
Okay.
This first is just the courses, the curriculum itself.
Anything further? Okay, roll call.
O'Connor,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Petroni,
yes.
Cole.
Yes. Okay, 4.4, approval of dual credit online plan.
Yeah, a little bit about the plan. I know you guys have had this a few days. I won't belabor it. Basically, what we're trying to do is offer the 5 courses through, it's called dual credit. So in essence, when a student takes one of these online, they'll get high school credit, plus they will get college credit. Now, currently, Springboro has not done this very often. I think this year, Mr. Hanson's class has, I think, 60 or 70 kids enrolled in a AP class through Cincinnati State. This would be online. What we're planning on doing, which is part of this, is we'll have a lab of 60 computers that will be in our media center. The 60 computers that we're going to purchase are actually going to come out of our $1.1 million that we have for computers. So if this doesn't work out well, we need those computers anyway, so we'll not be wasting money. We will need tables and chairs. To my understanding, actually, after I wrote this, I found out years ago they purchased some and Franklin shut down a building, so we may not even have to purchase chairs. One of the things right now that is open for debate at the state level is any PSEO or dual credit, the district is required to pay for. Now, luckily, we're getting this for $21.50 a credit hour. I did some, if you look on board docs, some illustrations of this. For example, right now, a typical quarter hour at Sinclair is $142.50 per hour. So needless to say, if with this, that would be roughly $131,000 savings if 360 students sign up for this, that Springboro parents will not pay. At University of Dayton, right now, a credit hour is $1,067. That is amazing how much that is. So our parents, if 360 students sign up, which is 60 computers in the lab, 6 periods a day, 360, that would be over $1 million savings to our taxpayers. One of the things about this, not only is that a feature, a lot of districts right now have kids graduating from high school and they're 1 or 2 credits away from associate degree. Because the whole time that they're in high school, they're able to take the online credit and the dual credit, save them money if they're paying for their own college. It gets them college credits. It allows them not to have such an increased load at the college level. Now, right now, all of that focus is on what it does for the student. What will this do for the district? Because some people are hearing, wait a minute, you're paying for all that. We're going to have a bubble of about 300 to 400 students in our high school for a 3-year stretch. It's going to be temporary. And John, he'll talk about the numbers in the next meeting. With 400 students, you're looking at possibly 20 teachers. Now, I know we have discussed, well, that would be 400 less students in the earlier grades. That's not the case because the same number of kids are still in those other grades. It's just that we have certain grades coming through that are larger. So it's very difficult to assume we're going to take teachers from here and put them to here. It's not going to be able to work out that smoothly. So we're going to have 2 options. We're either going to hire 15 or 20 teachers. If we hire 20, that would be probably $1.2 million roughly. If we're able to absorb some of that with online learning, we could probably do it for $200,000 or $300,000. Now, part of our district focus is to be able to accelerate student achievement and support high-quality teachers. Throughout the summer, the board, myself, we received tons of emails. Please settle negotiations. Please don't let this happen. I mean, probably hundreds of them. We heard that, we listened, but we can't run right back into the same situation that we were in. So we have to be able to deal with this 400 student bubble. Now, so I know out there on the blog it's going to be, so Mr. Petrie is going to educate kids through computers. Here's what I have to say. Go to Ohio State, go to University of Dayton, go to Miami University, go to Harvard, go to Yale. They all require online courses. If we're preparing our kids for college, they ought to be doing in high school what they're going to do in college. That's taking at least an online class a year. These are only for electives, and it's only for juniors and seniors. So we're not bringing this in for core classes, okay? There are some classes, I do believe there needs to be that teacher and a student. But for some of our electives, certainly we could use this. Now, are we going to still have to hire some teachers? Perhaps. It's built into the assumptions on the 5-year forecast to hire 3 or 4 teachers a year. It's there. So I'm not saying that we're going to go to all online learning and not hire a teacher. I'm just saying we are going to find a balance to where it maintains our budget while accelerating student achievement and taking care of a highly qualified staff. That's the goal with all of this. But to do that, we've got to try. So this is going to be a pilot. And it is definitely, we found out, I think, on October 15th, that Sinclair would allow us in. We're one of the few districts, because there is some subsidy to some extent for them to give us this rate to allow us to try this. So with that, it's put the board in a position to make a lot of decisions quick. And I've tried to provide them as much information as possible. So the intent is that we get this approved this evening. And then by mid-next week, or hopefully by tomorrow, we're going to get information out to the parents. Then we'll specify exactly which kids are eligible on Monday. And possibly the end of next week or the Monday of the following week, we will have that parent meeting, go over all of the classes that are an option. And then hopefully on November 4th or 5th, the kids will get signed up. So what I have done for you, I've given you the worst case scenario budget, is what I want to call it. If 360 kids sign up, we're paying for tables, we're paying for computers, we're paying for every single one of the kids that have a book. We technically can charge a fee for the books. What I am thinking about doing, and Ms. Sternberger and I, and Ms. Cook when she gets back, we're going to look at, is perhaps if we have 30 kids sign up for the humanities class, perhaps we buy 10 books and they can check them out if they need them, or they can go buy their own if that's not enough. So we're still looking at that because it's not written in stone that the district has to buy all the books. So we're going to check that out. Hopefully with you approving this tonight, we'll be able to jump on any used books that are out there, and we'll be able to take advantage of it that way as well. With that said, are there any questions?
Well, let's go ahead and put a motion. I need a motion to approve so we can talk about it. Second. That was Mr. Miller, and Cole was the second. So any discussion?
Okay, you said that these are all elective courses, so when I look at this breakdown from Sinclair that says English and social studies and math and science, I guess I would think from just looking at this that would be able to be used towards some of our English, social studies, math, and science credits that are required. But you're saying, no, these are just strictly electives underneath
Correct.
those.
Because here's the secret about the college thing. And even with PSEO, what has happened is a lot of kids will go and take PSEO or a dual credit class in other districts, and they'll think they're getting English 101 for college. It opts them out at the high school level, and they think they're getting the first year of English done at the college level. When they get to the college level, the college says, we'll give you credit for an elective. What I don't want to do is get into promising Springboro parents, this is going to knock off English 101. We're going to knock off an elective at high school and an elective at college, even to even. I'm one of those people that's cautious like that. I don't want any surprises. And right now, it's if they try to take one at college, perhaps, and it's a core course here, there does need to be some face time at certain age levels. That's why we've put this to junior and senior year for electives.
And then my only other comment would be, you mentioned that this would just be for social, or for students that are in study hall. So the kids that pack their schedule, it's kind of a reverse rewards, if you ask me, because if my child signed up for classes and chose not to have a study hall and they didn't they're getting penalized, sort of, in a way, to not have that option. I'd be curious to see how many students have a full schedule and no study hall and they would like to participate in this, because if that were the case, I'd hate to hold them back from it from the standpoint of they really filled their schedule and now I mean, I know we have to start somewhere.
Right.
And I'm glad we're here, but
I'll tell you, as soon as I talked about this last quarter, I had emails from parents saying, why can't you do it for freshmen and sophomores? We want to be able to do that eventually, but we're only gonna have 60 computers to start this in there. I don't want to invest the public's money and not know if the kids are gonna like it or not. So even if they could, we're not, a few things. We're not gonna allow kids to change their schedules. If they're scheduled for a study hall second semester, then they'll be able to do it.
and if a kid doesn't pass this, they have to reimburse the $71.50 per credit hour to the parents.
The 2150?
Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a stipulation in there, but even then, if you, and I sent you the statute, even then, that's kind of hazy where the government's at right now on that. So I highly doubt any of our kids will have that issue. One thing I do want to talk to you about is the staffing element, and I actually met with Mrs. Leibold today, and she'd already looked into some of this. The thing with online, and that's why I did have the option for an aide in here, we're not going to hire that person right off the shoot. I doubt if we do anyways. The thing with online courses, I don't know how many of you have ever taken it. It's very low level technology that it takes to run the programs. And basically, when you come in, some days you don't hardly look at the computer. You're going to have different things that you may copy and go work on projects, then you input the information or you blog back to some of the other people on there. So it's something we're going to have to see how it works. The first month we'll probably have, right now we have 2 high school study hall monitors. If we have 60 kids from one study hall go and take this, we're going to have one of the aides follow them to get it started so that Mrs. Leibold can work with the kids and then make all of this work. So this is going to be a pilot, no doubt about it. Luckily, we're set up technology-wise for 60 computers to run at one time in our library. So some of the investments we've made over the past year that all of you have approved really makes it possible for our kids to launch off into some of these areas.
Good question. You might have said this, I just not heard you. How many, do you know what colleges will accept these credits as the student graduate?
All of the colleges should accept. There is a list, I forget the name of the, do you remember the name of that? It's a list of the. Yeah, it's,
So all state colleges in Ohio?
yes. And I think most of them are even national as well. There's a, I apologize, there's a name for it on there that they're accepted by, but it is able to check these, but these are the ones that's most commonly used right here. There's actually more than this. And the cool thing about dual credit is we can design our own. And we talked about the career, College and Career Academy. If we wanted to design some of our own courses and run it through, we can get dual credit for those as well. I mean, it's really limitless on what we can do for kids and parents with this, and to some extent.
I know this is new to us, but it's roughly, what would you say, how many districts are already doing?
About all of them, especially affluent districts like us. Kings High School right now, Kings, Mason, Alter, they've had these labs for years. I mean, this is nothing new, to be perfectly honest. Kings High School right now, I'm not going to quote any percents, but they have a large number of kids that graduate from high school with almost an associate's degree.
So that's a lot of credit hours that they've earned. So,
Yeah.
what, 24?
Oh, it all depends on what associate's degree it is. It could be up to a year for some of them. I mean, that would be pretty cool for our kids to be able to go to college and work part-time in an associate's degree paid position. That would financially, man, they would come out of college not so in debt, which is part of the problem with all of our young kids now. They come out of college so in debt that if they're not in an occupation that pays $150,000 a year, they never get caught up. So it would be very beneficial.
Yeah, one of the things to point out, I mean, from a planning perspective, this was listed as an unmet need in our 5-year forecast. So as we move this forward, it's been identified to address this bubble. So it kind of came off an unmet need, and there's been some money allocated that could be shifted, but the goal is definitely there in the forecast to address what may occur down the road. So we're taking another step in a direction that was established, back last year to kind of move this forward. And so I appreciate the effort. I think the presentation we had from Mrs. Cook and you all working on what classes to select, at least to test this out. I'm hoping it's very successful because I've got a gentleman who I sponsor at Ohio State University, and he's in year 2 and at $40,000
Oh, yeah.
in debt right now at year 2. And So it would be nice that my 4 children will have options down the road, not to be in that kind of situation. So,
But we're gonna charge you double.
We mentioned the prerequisites. As you look at these course descriptions, you know, it's a long list of prerequisites. I guess they're ors mostly, and you're gonna take those away because I gather those prerequisites are, well, they're in Sinclair Code, DEV 0012, that course. I assume that that's a remedial high school course that's required. How do parents know, or students know, that they're going to be able to succeed in these classes? I guess that's my question, because we do identify, or Sinclair does identify the prerequisites. Might be a little bit intimidating for some folks to see those college level prerequisites, and then, I mean, I would wonder whether I had the background in order to succeed in that class.
That is, I can't tell you we have that here, but these are more entry-level college classes. Our juniors and seniors, I'd be greatly surprised if they don't do extremely well when we start.
But for PSEO, don't they have to have a college entrance exam before they enter into PSEO? Right, so, and then they identify deficiencies. Do we have to do that then for the dual credit? No. So again, you know, I'd say there's some fear that we may be not, kids might think this sounds like a great idea and then get in there and the rigor is just too much. We don't want to set them up to fail.
Well, one of the things that Michael at Sinclair had indicated to us is that fortunately we're in a place where a lot of schools are already doing this.
Right.
So we have a lot of background and we have a lot of history of success with these other schools that are comparable to where we are. So I think, you know, we're in a good spot in that regard because of enough information.
If there is something good about being behind.
There are some benefits to that, yes.
That might be it, is that we can identify the hiccups that there may be with our students and hopefully learn from their mistakes, because, you know, they've made them probably, they start 5 years ago with this stuff? Yeah. Okay, I guess my question was also about content, and again, my issue has been the content of one of the AP courses that I totally disagreed with my daughter reading. So I'm worried that if that content, and supposedly that content came from instruction from higher ed, that higher ed was using this kind of a book, so therefore AP adopted it. So I think the concern is, and I think we can withdraw from any of them that we find to be a problem, but this is coming at us really quickly, so we haven't had time to look at all the curriculum, all the readings, assigned and optional readings. So maybe that's something that we would do pretty quickly here, to look at that, and parents, I think, I'm asking you for help, because I think that that's helpful, and because we don't want to put them in a dual credit course online and have content that we don't know they're reading, which is inappropriate for their age level. Because we have to remember that these are minors, and minors that don't have the basics in history first, to then bring in a book that's not actual history.
Well, what we can do is this: they will not start these classes till mid-January. So I've already spoken to the gentleman who worked with Sinclair. He can get us the syllabi by the middle of next week. Ms. Springboro has already agreed to get that tomorrow. So he can get that by the middle of next week. And if the kids sign up and you see, because as a board member, you can pull it off the shelf and put it on the shelf. So needless to say, I'm done. Still working over there. But nonetheless, if you really felt one was that off for one of our parents, we wouldn't be able to stop it. We would have to be the process of going through and changing it to Sinclair. And of course, we're paying the tuition already. It's our setup.
Because I am learning that's one of the difficulties that I didn't think about as a parent, is saying, okay, go, fly little one, get into the college level curriculum, not realizing that we're talking about minors and we're talking about adults. We're talking about two different age groups. So we have to be, I think, very cognizant that we do need to review the content of those courses. They're not adults.
And that's part of the reason we're limiting this to juniors and seniors in high school.
So we need a lot of supervision, I think.
And this is an exciting thing, Mr. Petrie, and I know that you and Ms. Cook and the Springboro have worked hard to get this going. I'm glad that we're moving forward with it. Sounds like we're way behind other districts.
Well, Mr. Fennell had to do their right with playing too.
Yeah. well,
I'm just so excited.
You know,
So excited.
everybody that was involved, I think they deserve a lot of kudos for pushing this forward. And I know it's a new venture. I guess I could quote something that we hear a lot on the news. There might be a glitch. I don't know. I hope not. But if there was a glitch, I hope people will bear with us and we'll fix it as soon as we can. But I just want folks to know that, you know, you guys are trying to push academics forward. And this is an example of that. And, you know, sometimes I know you encounter a lot of inertia. Sometimes it's from up here, but sometimes it's from out there, okay? And I think this, in this case, we're all very supportive of this and trying to push this as much as we can. And I'm just glad that you're able to get this going, and I'm looking forward to great things. We didn't highlight it when we talked about the budget, but we have allotted some money to renovate the media center. I don't know, I mean, if we're starting this up in January, it'd sure be nice to get some of that, at least, you know, some ideas on paper, maybe even before January, if we could do something over Christmas break, that would be wonderful. And so it's an exciting thing, and I just want to thank you for moving it forward.
Well, I appreciate hopefully your support here in a second.
Yeah.
All vote yes.
Okay, should we all vote yes? Okay, roll call?
Miller,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Yes.
Donald,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Bowles,
Yes. Is that it? Is that all five?
Thank you
We're
very
gonna have
much.
to come up with a system where you say that's it. Move on or something, because I don't count, I'm looking at the agenda. All right, so we can move on to 5.1, which is approval of personnel items. Is there anything that needs to be presented? Just personnel items. I need a motion to approve the personnel items.
So moved.
Okay, that was Mr. Regano, and I need a second. I can second. Okay, any discussion?
Just clarification again, these are recommendations by you?
Yes.
Petrie, correct? Very good.
Is that not on there?
No, sir, I just want to make sure that we're accepting recommendations from you.
Correct. Yeah, we need to put that on
Yes, sir, please.
I just want to point out items 16 through 20, that I know that wellness was like close to 40,000. Right now, we just got 13,000, and we've spent 10 of it on wellness coordinators. So I want to find that out, that's it. I got it. Thank
You know what, I always feel like I can relax on that issue. Wendy's got it.
When I had to get my waist
On it like white on milk.
I've been warned that this is cool.
She's got some of those, so phew, we don't have to worry about them. I appreciate that, I really do. Okay, did we, yeah, I need a roll call, if there's no further discussion. Okay, roll call?
Regano,
Yes.
Bowles,
Yes.
Tony, Miller,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
all ayes.
Okay, 6.1, approval of resolution declaring impractical to transport payment in lieu of transportation. Mr. Pennell.
This is the annual request to the board to declare impractical transportation to those non-public schools that it's not real practical for us to drive a bus to. And the biggest reason for us is the fact of the number of students that ride. It's the buses. It's not how many go to those schools, it's how many that actually ride the bus when we apply the transportation.
So there may be 100 students, but
There may be 100 students and we put them on the bus, but then only 5 ride. And it's not practical for us to ride a bus with 5 students.
okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Regano, I need a second.
Second.
Mrs. Cole, any further discussion?
The one thing I do want to bring up, this is, we get the list from the schools the original list that's, this is what the private schools have. And then that's what you approve, and that's what we set forth. And then what'll happen is letters will go to these parents, they'll send them back, and that's actually what will later on trigger the payment. So I know there was one mistake on there where there's a person twice, they won't get paid twice, they only get paid once. And then there are some that have come back to our schools, those will be taken off at that time also.
That was another missed school.
I don't know who pointed that out.
I don't know. Thank you.
She's on it again, it's great.
So I guess the simple question is that we have people that are listed that don't ride, making it impractical for us to afford to do it, but yet then we possibly pay for all the people that are on the list for not riding.
Correct. But remember, this is just a pass-through dollars. For everyone we approve, that we approve and send to the state on the T reports, we get reimbursed that much money for it. So it's just a flow through from the state. None of our local dollars will do that unless somehow we miss one and it doesn't get on the list for the number.
Great, okay, are we done? Roll call?
Pagano,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Coles,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We have agenda item 7.1, board member comments. We'll have board member public announcements and any future considerations all at the same time. Mrs. Cole?
My mother brought this magazine to my home this last week. It was a Cincy magazine from June, July 2013. And I think I've gotten so caught up in different articles and blogs and, you listen to the squeaky wheel and things that people say that I forget why I wanted to get involved in the Springboro Board of Education and how great this town is. And this little Cincy magazine had rating the burbs, 50 top communities. And number 4 was Clear Creek Township, and number 6 was Springboro. We were right behind Terrace Park, Indian Hill, Madeira, and Wyoming in that top 6. So we have a lot to be proud of, and I hope we don't forget about those things. A lot of the things that it mentions are our schools, the crime rates, the parks, the community, and the support in our community. So it was a nice little piece. I know it's a little outdated, but I was happy to come home from work and see it on my counter, and it was a feel-good moment. So.
Great, thank you. Mr. Miller?
The only thing I would like to remind everybody is we did just see that presentation of the 5-year forecast. And I think we can all see what would happen if we have the dollars transplanted. So I just would urge everybody to go out and support the original.
Thank you. Mr. Petroni?
Yes, ma'am. This is my last opportunity to speak in this setting before the November election. So what do you think matters after November 5th? Let me tell you. Advancing student achievement in all our schools matters. Holding people accountable for results and actions matters. Assuring no future embezzlement occurs in our support programs matters. Increasing ACT scores matters. Encouraging and increasing college credit availability in high school to save parents money matters. Controlling district medical costs matters. Maintaining a balanced budget matters. Keeping sports and educational fees affordable matters. Keeping our children safe on our buses and in our buildings matters. Increasing the use of student data to allocate resources where most needed matters. Providing professional development to expand into a 21st century learning environment in every building matters. Creating an educational environment that is the envy of our peers matters. Rejecting proficient as an acceptable learning standard in Springboro matters. Asking our taxpayers for no more than is necessary to accomplish our goals matters. And strategically investing in technology systems that save time, money, and advance our children's education matters. I call this agenda one of reform. For too long, our leadership seemed not to be motivated, content with status quo, leaving too many children underserved. This direction, which we are now heading, is sustainable, it creates opportunity, it offers balance, and it states the truth. I would also like to strongly encourage the passage of issue 14, which is a reduced renewal levy. We balanced the budget and met our obligations now for the foreseeable future as presented this evening with the renewal levy. When it became clear that the district could meet its needs with less money, the board voted to request lower millage in the renewal levy. Not only have we proven that we can live within our means, but now every stakeholder in this district, our students and families, our staff and teachers, and the taxpayer will benefit. I'm personally pleased with what we've done to balance the budget, achieve new contracts, and not have to ask as much for the taxpayer to accomplish it all. All of that started with a simple priority: to put children first. I hope for it to continue with the passage of the issue 14 renewal levy for our schools and the election of candidates who are ready to talk about the issues in the future. Thanks for listening, and please don't forget to vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Mr. Regano?
No prepared remarks this evening, but I guess I would like to echo the sentiments on issue 14, our renewal levy. I think Mr. Porter did a fine job of showing what would happen to our budget if that were not to pass. And the $4.5 million hole we would be scrambling to fill. So I want to encourage everybody to go out and support that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say that, I've never been a real emotional person. I guess that's not totally true when it comes to the kids. But I'm always a factual person. I like to present the data and the facts. And I think Mr. Porter did that pretty well tonight. But also, I am pretty sad that, my kids and other kids got through the district and didn't get the same advantages that some of the other schools were giving their students in dual credit and more PSEO and promoting AP, and a little disappointing there. Mine included, didn't get those benefits of really promoting and pushing academic excellence. And I'm grateful for the leadership that we have now, and that you guys have taken this on, along with, I know, enormous mountains of OTES, OPES, SLOs, third grade reading guarantee, SB 165, should I keep going? But there's a lot of things on your plate, and I'm grateful that you saw that this was a priority for these kids, to get the high school experience that other schools are offering, to kind of play catch up. And I know it's kind of a scramble right here at the end, because we got this window of opportunity and people are trying to capitalize on this window. And I know that there may be some glitches, and I'm asking for parents to please be involved and help us out. Ask the kids to be in these courses, try them out, let us know what the problems are so we can correct them, so that this pilot year goes as a year where we can learn a lot and get our learning curve down to just 1 year, so that next year we're really catching up with the other schools. So I do also appreciate what you guys have done, and I know it's been tough because we ask a lot of questions. I know a lot of school boards, if you were somewhere else, they might not be as on top of you like white on milk that we are, because we do ask a lot of questions. And we want to know, because, and I keep saying this when I'm out there, we're at the top of the organizational chart, which simply means we get blamed for everything. So because the blame's going to come my direction, I want to have answers for what went wrong and how we managed to correct the problems. And I know you guys know that. It's pressure that comes on us, and we kind of put it on you, but I'm grateful that we're getting somewhere. Thank you for all your work. Okay? We are going to take a Sure, absolutely.
I'd like to actually recognize Dr. Cole. I've grown up in this area my whole life. And I think we all know there's those yards that have always kept the vote no signs up year-round. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Coles. She went right up to the front door and spoken to these people, and they have our support cards and the signs in their front yards. And I'll tell you, you take a lot of heat for sometimes you state how you feel. You're not passive about it. You just put it out there. Some people like it, some people don't. But you definitely have gotten some signs in some key places. I would have never thought in a million years we'd see signs. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the school.
Oh, well, you're welcome. No problem. Okay, we will take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene in the library for work session. Okay, reconvening. Did everybody get their beverages and little tidbits of cardboard over there? I
feel like I'm
mean,
treated very different.
okay. People.
Yeah.
10.1, committee reports, Mr. Petroni.
I think we'll have a meeting, I'll start talking about fiscal capital needs, make sure it comes
That would be ready to meet.
Yeah, sort of.
And we have to talk really loud because we have no microphones.
The five-year forecast was approved tonight. The assumptions include investments in a variety of things with, if all the revenue shows up, we've got great things happening in Springboro. Our next committee meeting will start digging in a little bit deeper now that Mr. Pennell's getting his legs under him as it relates to the capital improvements budget of $3.5 million that was laid out in a five-year forecast. There's over $1 million slated for this year. We're going to hook in to see if we'll be able to accomplish that. And he's going to give us some updates on what's needed and what's not needed. And so I think that's probably his last meeting for the year, would be my guess, until next season and the budget committee starts again, hopefully next year.
Great, thank you. Mr. Regano?
Policy committee met on the 18th. We met with Mr. Norm Burkhardt from Neola. We brought and went through our update packet of numerous policies. So many that I'm not going to bother to mention it tonight. I'll just refer you to the meetings from the policy committee, the minutes from the policy committee. And there'll be a number of them that are coming for first reading at our next meeting. And there are a number that the committee's continuing to review. So just be prepared. You're going to be in policy heaven for the next couple of board meetings. At least that's the way I'll describe it for you. So next meeting is the 1st of November.
So we can expect the channel 2, 25, 19, 22, I could go
I'm
all
sure
the year,
somewhere
policy
in
after
the-
policy
in-
after policy, boring after boring.
I'm sure somewhere in this set of changes that they'll find something that they're interested in. But they are going to have to look hard because there's a lot of
I
changes.
said, wow, that's a slow news night. Come after the old policies. Anyway, okay, and there's nothing new from Career Center or compensation and evaluation. All right, so 10.2, boys basketball press box, Mr. Pennell.
Well, boys baseball.
Baseball, what did I say?
Basketball, definitely. I
Whatever.
understand.
Baseball.
It's around
Sports.
ball. So, coming around, I just got a little talk sheet that I want to give to you all so that you have it. For the last several years, after as the renovations have gone on for baseball and softball, other kind of sporting activities, the baseball folks have spent a lot of time and effort trying to raise some money to build a press box / concession stand team room capability. So Mr. Pelfrey has spent a lot of time and effort with his kids and all getting things going. And even back in 2011, when the latest changes were made to baseball and softball with the cinder block dugouts and the knee walls behind the backstops, one of the options was for a baseball press box concession stand. It wasn't done at that time because of cost and everything, but it was there. The team has raised between $35,000 and $40,000 already for the project that they've got in the bank. So what they're looking at trying to do is build a 20 by 25 foot two-story building. The first floor would be the concession stand and storage area. The second floor would be the press box and the team room area. It would have no running water or sewer, which helps with the cost significantly. And they want to have just a standard pitched roof or even a hip roof on the place. There'd be an entrance door into the concession stand with a set of stairs that would lead upstairs. So it would be safe in terms of no outside stairs, no outside entrances to the second floor, which is another big thing. And then for the safety security of the building, there would be roll-up doors on the first floor concession stand as well as the press box opening, because they're much harder to get into and cause damage to. Now, there's still a few things that we're gonna have to finalize as we go through the project. You will have to authorize us at some point in time, which is hopefully soon, to go ahead and authorize us to create architectural drawings. This will have to have permits, it will have to have full stamped architectural drawings, structural drawings, because it's a two-story building. We want to make sure that everybody's safe. And then also at that point in time, we'll have to have approval to go through the bidding process. Because of the fact that the value of this building is going to be over $25,000, we have to go through the formal bid process for this building, even if we get a lot of donations and things for it. I know that Mark has talked to a lot of folks, including the Warren County Career Center, about getting some help from those folks, as well as some other possible donations of materials and supplies, man hours. So that will help considerably cut down on the cost that we have to put out, or they have to put out, to do that. So one big determination we'll have to make: do we want to hire a general contractor to run it? Do we want to do it in-house? Todd, used to build houses. I think he should be the general contractor myself.
I second that.
In his spare time. But seriously, it's something that we could probably do in-house in terms of managing the contractors. Unless we can find a general contractor that's willing to do a lot with these donated materials and donated personnel. It's something that would be very clear in the bid documents that if we go that route, they would have to work with, which a lot of the general contractors don't like to do. The other thing that we'll have to do is we will have to find someone to do architectural drawings. I know there's a few people we want to look at. The gentleman I've used down in Fairfield, unfortunately, is packed. He usually does it very cheaply and fairly quickly, but he's packed until the beginning of next year at minimum. So Todd knows a few folks. We're going to try to look for some folks to get us some architectural drawings that are a little cheaper than typically what a Steve Him and Paul would do, because they want $10,000 to $15,000 to generate the drawings. We don't need to spend that kind of money on this size of a project. We need to have full architectural and structural drawings, but we can find them cheaper than that. So that's one of the things that we're doing. So the anticipated cost of this entire project would be between $70,000 and $100,000. Like I said, he's got $40,000 approximately raised. We're hoping with the manpower from the Warren County Career Center and then possible donations, which Mark's had some general discussions with, and we'll have to go a lot more full bore with. We're hoping to be able to get a lot of that piece that's left donated at this point in time.
Does this raise a Title IX issue for us? Do I have the right number?
It's a Title IX. It would be, are we treating the girls softball the same as the boys baseball? And I think that the only difference there is if that issue is raised, they do have a concession stand over there. It's only a wood concession stand. Maybe we provide them with a larger wood concession stand before they can raise their own money. This is an issue where it's not, their fields are equivalent. The dugouts, the backstops, the fields are kept up the same. So really the Title IX piece, the only thing they could possibly say is we want a little nicer concession stand and team room for the time being. They would have to raise the money for that.
So let me get this right. The boosters for the baseball team are the ones raising the 40,000, that have raised the 40,000?
Well, I think the coach and his
Parents?
players.
Yeah, Mark, come
Yes.
on up, Mark.
We have raised it through various fundraisers we have done. We have had people that have donated money specifically for a project such as this. We have had signs on the outfield fences in the past that we generated money that has went into this fund. So it's been through various resources.
And you've got another 30,000 to go, and you're thinking that you can generate some of that quickly, or that You can get some donations for a lot of that.
Well, either through, I think the Career Center is gonna help reduce that cost, because Jeff Madden and I talked with Gary Patton, and they're very interested in helping out, so I mean, that part of it is gonna reduce the cost some. There's other people that we've talked to, that I think are gonna be willing to help out, but I guess until we get approval, we don't wanna get things finalized with them. And then we would be willing to do some other fundraising issues if we need to as well.
So what are you gonna need from us, John?
Well, I think what we'd like to see at the next board meeting is just the approval to go through, get architectural drawings started, and just to let us set forth the areas so we can start, that process. I think we can probably get architectural drawings done in a couple of weeks, depending on who we get.
Are we talking about paying for it though, us, or is this coming from boosters?
Well, it would come from this pot of money that they have.
Okay, so it's not a general, it's not a general revenue.
There's no general fund revenue or.
Unless you guys want to.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yes, that I
and
got.
that's why we want, we don't want to spend $10,000 of the hard-earned money to do architectural drawings. That's why we have to find someone who'll do it cheaper and correctly.
I love the idea of having the Career Center involved too.
Right.
There are a lot of professionals in the community, and I don't know if, I have to imagine there's an architect somewhere in Springboro who may or may not be willing to donate the services. Probably find an engineer that might be able to do any standard drawings.
And I didn't want to go too
Unfortunately, I'm
far
not
until
qualified,
we
otherwise I
got
would, but-
your feeling about whether you're ready for us to move forward with it, because I didn't want to go beat the bushes, just like Mark didn't want to do the finalizing.
I think it would be worth just verifying that, or maybe you have enough knowledge you can say definitively that there's not a Title IX issue. I know that one of the issues at the girls softball field is it gets swamped very easily. And so I don't know if we build a concession stand at the boys field, if we have to build a concession stand at the girls field, or we can do some other improvement that they need. Which, they might rather have drainage than concession stands so that they can play, whether they would never like to be able to play.
Well, outside of cost, what's the rationale for not getting, you're gonna have, our concession stands in the stadium have running water, don't they?
Correct.
So a concession stand that would have food and stuff, you won't need for coffee, and you won't need that kind of stuff there, or a sink to wash hands with food, or?
Well, typically the concessions at the baseball games are snacks, they're chips, candy, sodas, things like that. There'll be a refrigerator there, but nothing that would.
So you wouldn't wanna do hot dogs to get that revenue up, or?
Well, you could buy a hot dog steamer that runs on electric, and then you kind of bring water in for that.
No health and safety without having water for cleaning?
What is it usually if you have to have a 2 or 3 gallon bucket of water next to it, and that suffices for the water use?
If you want to do that, you can buy portable sinks.
Correct.
And those
Just
issues.
bring water. So the key is, the intent here is not to have because if you add the running water and sewer onto this, then you're minimally doubling the price of it.
Just to run a water,
Yeah.
run a water line into the
Yeah,
building?
because there's
That's
nothing, the
close, there's nothing close.
the sewer and water are not close enough where, you can just go down. You're gonna add minimum $50,000 to $70,000.
So we don't water your grass or anything? You don't have any grass?
It's not potable. There is an
Correct,
irrigation.
there's an irrigation line, but that's it.
It really sounds basic enough that you could just use a draftsman rather than an architect if there's not utilities in there.
Well, the biggest thing is the structural, because it's a two-story. Yeah, if it wasn't a two-story building, it wouldn't be quite as intense, but you're still gonna need stamp drawings.
Maybe so. My whole house, which was 3 stories, was done by a draftsman
Right.
and not an architect.
Well,
$20,000.
maybe a house is different, but if you have to go to the planning commission.
Correct,
whoever it
right.
is for
This is a
approval,
public.
Then they're gonna want a registered architect or
Right.
professional engineer to stamp the drawings.
Okay. So by next meeting, you'll have some kind of resolution, some kind of proposal that we need to approve.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd say Title IX, I don't know, maybe
I'll
let's talk
check.
to the softball folks to make sure there's no problems, because if there's 100,000 here, do we have to give them 100, do they have to come up with 100,000?
But I don't understand is it's not public money. And that's why I'm
Well,
not sure.
and I understand the Title IX issues.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Sports, it's like girls' basketball
Yeah.
thing that we don't have.
Yeah, I've spoken with Randy Callahan about this on several occasions.
Randy Cal, I apologize.
The softball coach.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And he is all for us going ahead with this. And I think in the future, they would like to try to get something like this, but he realizes that they're gonna have to raise their own funds. And I think he has plans to do that eventually, but he in no way wants to hold us up from what we've been working on for several years.
Yeah, that's good. I just want to make sure it doesn't all of a sudden someone from whoever deals with Title IX.
Well, or, yeah, I mean,
Or the
public
athletic
complaint
association.
or something like that
Well,
might
we
get
may-
us in trouble.
They need to get it in writing. I mean,
Yes.
we'll find out.
I'm fine.
From the coach that he's
Well,
okay.
I don't know that the coach is the final
Yeah,
decider.
yeah.
I mean, anybody could bring a suit
Yeah.
because of the Title IX issue,
Right.
so.
Exactly. We'll get that final for you.
Great.
Because like you
Thank
said,
you.
the facilities are facilities. This is,
And their baseball field in comparison to our girls' locker room to our boys' locker room, they're much better in comparison when you look at softball, so.
More equal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, thank you, Mr. Fennell. We have
We're seeing that next,
agenda item 10.3, which is MLA consultants. And this says I invited these guys, I hope you're going to tell us about yourself, but I invited this organization because I thought it was time. When we hear things from like Mr. Porter that says we're maybe a little inefficient in the treasurer's office, we might be overburdening someone and not someone else, or maybe everybody's overburdened. I think it's time for us to get a sense for what exactly we need. Do we need more? Do we need less? Do we need a swap on job descriptions and job responsibilities? So I thought it was a good time to hire an expert. So that's all he's going to talk to us about. If we want to do that, to come in and assess the treasurer's department and see what exactly we need. It's more, it's less, different. And so timing is, I thought timing was pretty good because we're going to be looking at a treasurer search here real soon, looking at applicants. We want to make sure our job description is correct, is accurate. We want to make sure our job functions are listed appropriately. And we may want to add a few things, given this kind of new thing with athletics, new accounting. We may want to add something to the treasurers, but I don't know. That's somebody with more expertise than most of us, I think, need to help us out with that decision making. So can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Keith Crabtree, and I'm a principal with the MLA companies. This is Joe Davis, he's one of our controllers. Seth Morgan, who is the president of our company, is currently in Africa at the moment with the CFO of Dayton Children's Hospital and Mike Settle's company, working in Guinea right now, teaching other people in Guinea about the methods and the methodology that CFOs in America use in running businesses. So he regrets that he could not make it tonight, but this trip was planned for many months, and you get stuck with me. So anyway, we're a professional advisory firm that work with primarily in the financial management area to assist companies in realizing their stated objectives through professional management, techniques, systems, and disciplines. Most of the principals in our company are CPAs and or CMAs, as I have also, and have 20 to 30 years experience in CFOs of various different size organizations, anywhere from some of the smaller organizations being the $10, $20 million range up to the $120, $150 million range. So what we're professional financial people. We come in, we look with most companies we work with on a part-time type of basis. We either do project-based work, we become members of the management team. There's some of that occurs. A lot of times we're working ourselves right out of a job because we're training up other parties. One of my clients, for example, that I've been with for about 5 years and started at 3 days a week, I'm now at a day a month. And the company is growing, it's moving. We've had some really good things. We've trained a lot of their people to handle the tasks that they were, quite honestly, had no financial knowledge when they bought the company. So I am a little unique in the fact that I have sat in your chairs. I'm a previous school board member from served on the West Carrollton board for a period of 4 years. It was a bit of a tumultuous 4 years in the fact that we had 4 different superintendents in those 4-year period of time. When we went into during the beginning of my term, we had a gentleman whose goal was average, and that was the reason why I ran for school board. His goal was we will be at or near the state average. And you know, the West Carrollton district in the late 70s, I'm one of those people that crossed the line, I guess. I was born and raised in Miamisburg. So then I went and lived in West Carrollton, and then my children went to West Carrollton, and oh my, you know, all of a sudden I'm on school board for West Carrollton, the arch rival. But in the 70s, yes, now I can empathize. But in the 70s, as a Miamisburg student, we were always getting our butts kicked by West Carrollton. West Carrollton ranks very poorly now, and it's unfortunate. But part of it was just that goal towards average, and that was that was primarily the reason that I ran. It just incensed me that we're going to take and move towards average when we've got the capabilities, or we have the capabilities. It's been a long time. My children are out of the school systems and college and all that. Although I do have a daughter who is teaching with the 4C for children approach. We won't go into what that is. But understanding school finance as a CPA, and there were 2 of us on our board that were CPAs that ran, and coming in and picking up on school finance and understanding more about school finance than most people did. It was always an interesting type of situation when budgetary time came, because they weren't ready to have CPAs on the board asking questions similar to what you guys do, and the fact that you ask a lot of questions because you need to know. You're the representative to the taxpayers of the district, and that's a very important piece. You know, that's just something that boards have to deal with. So, you know, we work obviously with numbers. Numbers tell a great story. They can, you know, I work with one gentleman who's a chair of one board I'm on, and we start talking numbers, and the eyes glaze over after about 30 seconds, and that's okay. You know, I generally keep my comments in there about 2 minutes, so try to keep mine brief tonight. So basically what we're looking at is coming in and as Dr. Cole's expressed, helping to assess where the district stands, what are the needs within that particular office, where are the job descriptions, where are the things that are going on, what are you doing well, what are you not doing well, what are the areas that need improvement, what are the areas that quite honestly need to kind of go away. That's one of the things that we tend to do not only in business but in the governmental side area is programs just go on even when they're not needed. So sometimes it's a role of an outsider to come in and say, okay, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why do you do that? And ultimately you come down, and if there's no real set reason to do it, we need to get rid of it. But a lot of times it's just because we always have. So my staff knows that that's not the answer I accept. So anyway.
We're going to get along, man. We're going to get along.
Good. That's one of those, it's just one of those things where if you're not looking at opportunities, one of the areas that I've tended to specialize in is cost savings. And only I come at it, I mean, anybody can cut expense. That doesn't take anything. My goal and my rule is it has to either improve or maintain customer service. Now, that's a little different when you have that rule in your repertoire. But not too long ago, it's closed with a $2.6 million company. We reduced his annual expenses by $237,000 by renegotiating all of his rent. All straight to the bottom line. Didn't affect any of it. We're on, and every one of them were in the same buildings. So it's one of those things where he didn't believe he could do it. He couldn't believe he even had the ability to start the project. So not only when you have to convince the owner to do it, then work the plan to do it, and it accomplished, actually, my goal was 150,000, and we were able to pick up a whole lot. So that's just one of the little pieces that come into play with it. You know, we represent a myriad of companies in the Dayton area. We also have companies outside of the Dayton area. We have a company that, about a $120 million company that we work with that's out of Texas. But they've done their whole back office through our company at times, and now we've supplanted an office there and working from there. So, you know, I don't want to leave the impression that we're working to say, how can we get in here? Because that's not what this is about. This is about making the assessment, providing, working with you. It's going to require interviews. It's going to require conversation. It's going to require time spent with the staff of the Treasurer's office, assessing where it's going on, what are the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then putting together a list of recommendations, a list of items for not only the new potential treasurer, which you've been in a form of outsource, you've been in the form of full-time. What is it that you need? And that we don't come in with any preconceived notion. That's one of the reasons it's a little harder sell for our company, because we don't come in with any anything saying, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, because we're your paying. We need to address what needs to be addressed, not have some formula that will come in and try to pinpoint our things. So, we believe that this, we're coming in as a friend of the board. We're coming in as it's either going to confirm what your current direction is going, or it's going to provide for improvements, or it's going to be some mix of the two. We see this one as a project. It's going to be something that probably Mr. Morgan will be the lead on. He's got, I think, the most experience in this particular area, but he has many people at his disposal. So we've provided an outline scope of what we saw during our first initial conversation, and so we're tonight was to hopefully get a few minutes more of, okay, what else are other people looking for? What else are we looking to make sure that we get through this scope of this project? It's at that point then we will come back and present our list of present the project to you, and then at that point you have the opportunity to say yes or no. So there isn't any cost at this point. This is just what we do with normal companies. We go in, we make an assessment, try to determine what needs to happen, and then step back and say, okay, folks, this is what we're looking at doing. But it's based upon what you need, not what we bring to the table. We bring our knowledge, we bring our financial acumen, we bring our years of business experience, we bring our years of experience sitting on boards and in many situations, especially in this case, school board. So treasurer is someone in this district, as every district, who should not only be the person who's putting the reports together and all that kind of stuff. That's not that while it's part of the function of their office, they need to be a strategic partner to the board and to the district in helping the district move forward. And that's a role that we play with our companies, and a role that we will expect and hope that your future treasurer will do the same.
How did we get in touch with you? I'm just curious how you came about how we got here. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Very, very good question. I believe that Dr. Coles and the president of our company, Seth Morgan, know each other. I'm not sure what that relationship is. I know that the conversation came, and a couple of weeks ago, we got together and said, let's have a little discussion, and then we'll make a presentation.
But your typical customer isn't normally school districts, it's businesses and different things, so this is kind of a different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the fact that we're knowledgeable within the financial side.
Right.
That's almost one of the things that from the school board side, there's so much that people get ingrained in, they are only this way, and I can only do this thing, and then when they're asking the question as to, well, because it's how I've always done it. So, we come into a company, we may not have any experience in the candy industry, but we come in with our background and our knowledge base, and all of a sudden we're helping that company save money and do better, not only to the bottom line, but to the top line. That's one of the things. We don't tend to focus, just say, cost cutting is not just it. I much prefer working on the sales side to see how we grow a business.
What kind of timeline is it for you to do this analysis to get?
Can I add some stuff here?
Absolutely.
I was going to say that I met Seth a couple years ago, and he was a former representative, state rep, and he was on the education committee. And I sat down with him one time at Panera Bread, and the guy just talked completely over my head about school finance, school funding, and I thought, wow, he is like an encyclopedia on school funding, because I think he was on the education, he just made it his mission to really understand it and how the funding formula worked. And I said, whoa, he's a CPA, but he knows so much more about funding education than I'll ever know. And so then I started asking him more questions, started picking his brain more and more about the school funding formula and how it's changed. But anyway, it got us talking about his company, and he places CPAs, but he also, because he knew so much about education and education funding and how the treasurer's office worked, and then he's been in the school board position before as a CPA, kind of overseeing your school district's finances. I thought it's a perfect fit for you guys to be able to help us determine how many people we need in the central office of the treasurer's department because of their functions and what kind of functions. I'm thinking that somebody may be overloaded and somebody may be underloaded, and maybe we need more people in there, because I don't want anybody, as Al pointed to last time, putting off something that legally has to be completed because we're understaffed. And so maybe that's a full-time treasurer, and maybe we recycle some of the job description. But I was thinking that by the next meeting, if we decided that this is something we really want to get a handle on, these positions and what all they contain, that maybe by the next meeting we'd have some kind of proposal.
Right.
If the board at this meeting decided that, we're not going to vote right now, but if we thought that that's what we wanted to do.
One of the things I'd
make
like
sure we
to
get it
ask,
right.
we have worked on some things that we see. I've worked in districts to where there's a lot of research out there from superintendents and treasurers that they pull from the business world. And it's easy to come into a district and say, well, in that building, you have 23 teachers, you should give them all 20 kids, you're good to go. Not realizing that 5 of them have special ed kids, and the world is special ed. You just can't slash and burn sometimes like you can in business.
No, that's why you ask questions.
Right.
Because, you can make, if you go in and you make those kind of assumptions, and, with the cost of the paper that you printed your proposal.
But your foresight of, to be able to reduce yet move the company forward, that right now in education, from an administrative standpoint, if you can't use data to do that, your district is going to sink. So that's something I'd love to sit down and talk with specialists on, that type of thing.
Well, but we're talking just the treasurer's office and finances.
Right, they'll interview us, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're going to interview us
Absolutely.
as well.
Oh, so you actually think that you think there'll be value in here to kind of broaden it a little?
Sure.
Okay, because Al's comment I don't know what you said at the last board meeting on your third day in the office or whatever that was. But you said something that because there was it's been a struggle for people in the office that have been in health issues. You said there's something that had to get done, but we're just kind of moving it through, and we just had to put that aside. I think that triggers a thing to me that said, so it sounds like that triggers a problem in my end, I guess, let's just do it that way. And this is a process thing that I think we've been wrestling with. I don't know where we went down to a part-time treasurer, maybe, or whether a full-time treasurer. Are you working full-time yet?
So far, yes, I'm getting out today.
But I'll tell you, he's met with our office staff multiple times to where now, within that budget, we have it broken down to, if it's $600,000 for textbook, where's it going?
We know where.
So, well, just went to 450, but nonetheless, he's done, it's been nice having someone here.
So I think the concern was not enough cross-training perhaps, that things have to get dropped if somebody has an illness, and how can we cover the department so that we're not left if somebody's out on illness, that kind of.
I don't know if there's ever anything. Is there ever anything in the world of schools that you can plan for this kind of transition that you walked into? Or is it just
there something in a plan because this budget forecast with Tracy being gone was, 21 days. Yeah, it was not a fun closure of the process. But
But some of
not
it-
because of negative, it just wasn't.
Right. Institutional knowledge was very shallow. And because John has been here 4 or 5 months, and when I go to others, also just off the top of my head, in the consolidation the last 2 or 3 years, Cindy Jo Howard had an EMIS coordinator put on her on top of the treasurer's job. And I'm telling you, the EMIS coordinator's job is a full-time job, escalating, and it relates to some of the questions you raised today, what's the staff count here versus what's the state? It's a lot of training that folks need to understand how all this translates through. So I'm seeing, as a result, in just 21 days, I think I've worked here, that the multiple duties heaped on people, they just can't wear that many hats and do it in the thorough manner it needs to be done.
I'm not advocating adding costs, but if we've got inefficiencies, and I don't think there were issues, it sounds like you have to, finance to me, isn't EMIS where we get our money to?
Well, EMIS is where you report all things in your schools.
Yeah.
The number of kids, which drives funding, but it also drives these grade cards, academic scores, the images they get. For example, I worked with one district, all their teachers had 0 years of experience in grades 1 through 3 for 10 years, because nobody had bothered to upgrade their experience each year. So somebody went out to the website and looked. It's that kind of quality control of your data that is super important as much as it is for the finance.
Right.
You never know what the newspapers are going to pick out of all that data we provide them.
One additional thing I failed to mention, this from our circumstance we see as an opportunity that's in the state of Ohio. Mr. Morgan is a licensed school treasurer. I am coming up to seek my school treasurer license because we see that there's a need within the state of Ohio for this kind of work.
So getting back to kind of, maybe it's just not clear to me, maybe everyone else gets it. But so you say you come in here and you'll give us this presentation and there's no cost now. So I was under the impression you were going to come in and explain to us our roles, responsibilities, work, duties, and that was the end of it. But it sounds like giving a presentation. So at some point in time, there's something that must make sense for your business, and I'm not finding that yet as far as from a fee structure.
From a fee structure, it basically comes in once we're going to present forward a scope of a project of what we plan to do and then what are the deliverables that we would have, which is going to be the things like, what is the staffing level, what are the pros and cons within the treasurer's office, what are the areas with cross-training that would really need to be done, what are, we don't really know what all those deliverables are going to be because they'll come out in the interviews that we do with people, they'll come out and, you're going to be talking to people not only inside the treasurer's office, but those people that are affected by the treasurer's office and what are they getting, what are they needing, what do they have. So part of what this is similar to the building that's been discussed. We really don't know what the plans are yet for the building. So if somebody said, hey, provide a cost for the building, okay, I'll give you a range, but it's going to be like this. Well, it's not even something we can do until we basically map out the rest of the scope of the project and make sure that we know, what we're going to be doing. And then once we know what we're going to be doing, we can put together a proposal and come back, for example, at the next meeting with a proposal which would then include, the cost structure of how we're going to do that.
I guess the question, Don, was how do you get to the fine details of your work? So if it's staffing, that's probably pretty basic. You have a section on staffing and there's an evaluator. I'm making this up. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud. But I've been involved in this with auditors before. So if you got staffing reviews and they're talking about workflows, job duties, and what's that? So then if it's money flows, I guess you get with Al, you figure out how and there's a piece of money flows. And if there's budgeting, then you get discussion of policy and budgeting. How are we budgeting? What's the process? What's the zero-based budget thing that everybody's created? Is it working?
Right.
Is there a better way to do it? And is that the idea?
It is. I mean, a similar work project that came up recently was somebody bringing forward a statement that had some fees on it that they didn't understand the fee structure. The project turned into, if we don't have this report done in 15 days, we're going to be subject to a $50,000 penalty.
So your proposal, so how do you create your proposal then that outlines, day 1 to day 5, and there's a cost for that, and here's the deliverable? I'm making up the number of days, just, that's kind of where you're at.
It is, and based upon our experience with doing this, because we go into multiple companies.
Same steps.
where it's basically the same set of, it's different questions, but it's same set of
Procedures.
Yeah, procedures that we're gonna go through, and we're gonna map out and direct what we think, how many days it's going to take, and then put a package together.
Well, I'll tell you, I am interested in it from every department that comes out of the Treasury, because the thing about this district, it's been run on a very external basis of appearance in terms of communicating with the community, and lots of times people not getting upset with the answers that they get. As a result, the internal components, and we know from our policies, haven't been followed like they should have. I'm not saying all, but right up to the minimum is how they've been followed. Now that we have all of these things in place, and we're trying to do the HR right, we're trying to do the athletic department properly with everything that goes into place, there's a lot of paper moving around to meet all of the requirements. And it's something that has not happened here, and I will go right on the record as saying that it has not happened.
I think you just said.
So when we, exactly, because it is, I mean, I look and we've gotten lucky on some of the administrators that we've hired, and I'm seeing these people wilt, and I know how that results in this profession. So I think it's a good idea if we have this taken a look at.
I do. I think there's confusion and lack of overlap, which we need some overlap, cross-training, stuff like that. And we encouraged it for a couple of years, but I didn't think it was happening. So I would really like job descriptions so that each person knows, okay, that's not my job, or, oh, yes, that is my job. And them to be equitably divided, because I think some may be overburdened.
See, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be that we're lacking administrators. The people we're lacking is the administrative assistant support.
Could be.
Because with some of our people in our central office, and I've only known them for a year and a half, they know their job so well. If one of them goes out or retires, you're left with, oh, what in the world do we do here? It's just like Cindy Howard, if she leaves, we're going to be in trouble with the amount of knowledge she has. So it's not the administrative part, it's the administrative assistant part that we
She
need to look
promised
at.
me, though, that she would be buried here.
Yeah.
Get that in right.
You better get that in right. Recently, she said that to me, because I asked. So, Mr. Crick, okay.
Still trying to understand the breadth of and depth, I guess, of the service. A couple weeks ago, I stopped into the finance office and just to kind of see how the interim treasurer was working out. Sorry about that, Al. And they were actually ecstatic that Al was there and talked about several things that Al was teaching them.
Right.
And so, will this uncover those kind of knowledge gaps? Or is that a level below what?
No, I think it will uncover some of those. I think it's going to, because I would expect Al to be part of the process as he's the current holder. Why not? I love the fact that you've got an experienced treasurer helping you right now. I don't know what the future holds for what your new treasurer is going to be, but to help define what that treasurer needs, if you've got a whole lack of understanding because the staff isn't trained as much as it needs, that's not uncommon in many organizations. People tend to hold on to that I can't delegate level, that I might lose my something about me, and that's completely the wrong way. When you delegate it and you allow and you train people, then you allow yourself to do more and to grow your people, and that's one of those areas that I think would come out of this. Because I think you've got a lot of, this district has done a lot to get where it's at, in being ranked number 46 in the state of Ohio. Okay, maybe it's, there's been a significant turnover within this position in this area. Maybe it's time to get a little bit more organization and direction for that area too, and have it rise up to the level that the district is.
One thing I react to is training, people getting trained, is days away from their current job. If you don't have adequate staffing, you guilty to let someone go to 3-day training or workshop.
Sure does.
And those are the kinds of things that needs the time. With a small group, you gotta have time to train. And it's like, I appreciate your comments, I've worked a little bit with gals, but we haven't had much time. Man, we're still trying to fly this ship, can't you? So, but they're very eager to learn. But good.
So, Mr. Crabtree, what we're going to expect then is you do some preliminary interviews, and then you would write, so that might happen in the next week, and then you would write a proposal that you would present to us at the next meeting? Is that right?
I know that there's been some opportunity for the board to look at some of the, and discuss some of the different proposals that Mr. Morgan put together, in a one-on-one type of fashion, but, it would be beneficial to have, the expectations that the board is looking for out of this, the expectations of the superintendent. What are they looking for from that position? What are they not getting that they need to get? One of the pieces I know that we did with during my time on board, we passed the capital improvement levy. We had some tumultuous times with they were going to outsource the busing and all this other, and it's, we kind of calmed everything down because, as CPAs prior to us running, we evaluated into, having it internal or having it external. And it was basically a break even. Nothing that the district had and nothing that the contractor had showed anything other than it was a break even. So why lose control? That didn't make any sense from a business standpoint. What it made sense for the district was they were putting that money that they were going to put in buses into other things. And so they had already started the path for 3 years of, we're not going to buy any buses. Well, even a district as small as what West Carrollton was, which is only like a 10 square mile district, has 33 buses. And if you stop replacing your buses, you stop doing that kind of effort, all of a sudden you're so far behind the 8 ball that you can't catch up. But with the capital improvement levy, in our case, we had a treasurer who was, he was respected. He was a former teacher. He was respected by both the union and the public and the board. But from a presentation standpoint, he didn't have it. And that was fine because he had the data. He had all the detail that you could possibly want. So we came alongside him and we did the presentation and we put together the charts and the graphs and all that kind of stuff. And we were able to pass the capital improvement levy on our first go because we proved to the district and to the public, this is what we need. This is why we're doing it.
When's Mr. Morgan coming back?
He'll be back Sunday? Monday. Okay.
And to put the detailed proposal, again, Kelly asked, does your team have to go and walk around the building and talk to people before?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Morgan on that because he'll be the lead on it.
Okay.
But
why do you work from that?
I would expect that we're, at least what we're going to try to do is have more comments from the board and perhaps.
So you want us to come with some ideas back to you or to? Okay.
Yeah.
We already have a list that we created.
You do?
Well, and then everybody's kind of chimed in, so maybe I can accumulate them all and say, here's what we need, here's what we
Okay.
need.
You have a
That would be
list
great.
you created before?
But he's got about 3, but then I've gotten something from like each board member and their.
Right.
Why don't we work on doing that? So we
Kind of put them together and throw them at you.
Good. Look forward to it.
Things we want done,
Okay.
okay. Okay, we'll be in touch then.
All
Thank
right,
you for
very
coming.
good. Thank you for the invite.
Sure. All right, we have agenda item 10.4, which is STEM or STEM Center grant. Deborah? Lynn?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I just want to thank you also for allowing me to be part of our Springboro team. I'm real excited. I'm thrilled to be working with such people that are so positive and are so open to ideas and so open to serving our students who are identified as gifted. What you have in front of you is a little write-up concerning the straight A fund grants. We are part of our gifted service department is part of BLISS, which is the Building Leaders in STEM Consortium. It consists of students or coordinators of gifted, and we got together and we have applied for this straight A fund grant that will touch 15 school districts in 6 different counties. Our STEM center would serve only our students. If you flip to the back, there's a mock schedule there. This all comes about in our hope to remain a leader, in our hope to serve students in a continuum of services. This year, we were blessed and fortunate enough to have a half-time teacher come in that we needed to teach one math section at one of the elementaries. But in hiring her, we were also able to provide services in 2nd grade. So we are providing whole grade services in 2nd grade through the PETS program. And then she's taking students out that show a prevalence for gifted, but it's a very fluid grade. So it's not anything formal. She takes them out and does enrichment with them. So it allows her, the teacher, to look at students in a different way. So we went down to 2nd grade. Our vision is really to serve those upper grades. This sub-center would allow us to serve students in 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 5th grade. So we are hoping for that. The money has to be spent by June 30th. So it is strictly setting up this wonderful center that will serve our students.
Tammy will help you with that, that's not going to be a problem.
God love Tammy. She's the best. It's really exciting because it is, if you look at the grant, one of the big things is, can you duplicate it around the state? We're already doing it. We are on board with 15 other schools in 6 different counties. And I'm talking Steubenville, Logan County, Claremont County, Wilmington, Hamilton. I mean, they're all over. And we're very excited about this. Again, the money would be spent by June 30th. It's strictly in setting this up.
So it's a planning grant, it's not a, so the money, you're not gonna exaggerate, we're not gonna hire 10 people with this grant, and all of a sudden, 1 year later, there's no money and we have 10 people.
No.
Okay.
This year, it's strictly setting the STEM center up.
That was the same question I had. Wait a minute, we're not going to hire these
I
people.
mean, I don't mind if we do,
Right.
I don't mind if we do, but I think it happened in the Clear
I
Creek-
do.
I think it happened in Clear Creek Township, where they hired all these people with this federal stimulus money, and then the money dried up, and that was one of the big things that they kind of missed in this fire levy.
This portion of the grant, and Al can attest to this because we've been working on this for the last 2 days, the portion, and we are not the fiscal agent, by the way, Bethel Tate is, but this portion of the grant, this year one money, includes no staff members. This year is strictly setting this center up so our kids can come next year and be part of this awesome center.
Where are they busing to?
Well, that's one of the things we have to do.
We have to find a location within the district.
Oh, that building that's.
Plenty of spaces, though, there are plenty of spaces.
Okay.
Okay, so this is, again,
So it's in our district?
oh, absolutely, and it's only for our students. Okay, it will begin next year. We'll know if we have the money by December 17th, and we have to spend it by the 30th. The weird thing is, the turnaround on this grant is so quick that year 2, you have to have that grant in for year 2 in March.
Good.
So the turnaround is quick, and it's an awesome, awesome center.
Have you pegged this with, has this been raised to anybody that we know in the Department of Education?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And I would like to welcome any of you to come with me at one point up to Bethel, if you would like to make the trek up, or down where I live in Milford area. I would like you to come and visit the STEM Center. We're modeling this after. Any of you would like to come with me and visit it, I would love to take you. So I'm just excited to move forward with this. I hope that you'll support it. And again, I can't say thank you enough for allowing me to be part of this school district that is so welcoming to new ideas, especially for our gifted students.
Well, thank you for heading this up, because Tammy, of course, has known about it, but you went out and made the contact on it to make it happen, so much appreciated. Who hired you again?
You guys did.
Tammy did.
Tammy did. Tammy's the best.
I have to give her credit for
She
that.
is. I love Tammy. She's fabulous.
We appreciate your energy.
Yeah, I know about that, Jack. I finally got to finish this afternoon. The grant required to show sustainability without changing the bottom expenditure line for the district in the year after the grant. So, your point, the grant required that. If it was going to require some employment, we had to reduce it somewhere else. So everything is budgeted for training and et cetera, which is 1 year with no expectation of any expenditure continuing this happen. Okay.
Thank you.
So are we not far enough yet to talk about the logistics? Because I see some of the funds requested will be used too, and so you're just talking about setup and initial setup stuff, but we're not getting as far as what students are going to come to this STEM center.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay, so Monday, 5th grade, so
But
they're
it's-
taken out of their school and
Right, and
put
it's-
over in some other building.
For
Superior
one day,
cost.
it's the people that are reading and math and superior cog, those students. And I don't have it, but I should have brought it. This Amy Bain, who's the one that's heading up writing this grant, is the one that started the STEM Center in Bethel. And that's why Bethel K is our fiscal agent. And she has done a lateral study over the last 3 years of data with science scores in 5th grade and how they have absolutely shot up with students who attend the STEM Center. And she started this year in looking at math scores as well. But the students they serve are the superior cog kids who really aren't being served in the academic areas.
Okay, thank you, because I think that I said that a year ago with an auditorium filled with people objecting to anything outside the box. And I really am frustrated, but I feel like crying at the same time because I'm so grateful that we're doing something for the gifted students of this district. And it's taken a while, and it was a lot of ridiculous fighting, in my opinion, ridiculousness, keeping us from moving forward on helping our gifted students get somewhere. And I'm grateful that we're finally talking about taking those superior cogs and doing what they need. Because we got a D this year in gifted services because we've not been addressing those needs. And I'm just really grateful that people are doing exactly what these kids need to do these days.
Well,
And
I'm
I'm
grateful that
okay.
you're open to that because
Oh,
most
yeah.
places I've been, they're like,
Well, it's not
they'll
just.
be fine, they'll be fine.
Well, right, just go read, go over there in the corner, because I got other people to deal with. It's just, it's not fair and it's not right, you know?
Just for the record, I was one of those complainers, but I was also saying to do just this and then let's look in-house before we look outside of the house. So I appreciate you bringing this
Oh,
down.
this
stuff up
is,
too.
what we were talking about inside.
No,
A
not
conversion
that.
opportunity was inside this district. It was the same exact thing we're talking about now.
No.
It's exactly what we're talking about now. Yeah,
Well,
it's a
and-
school inside a school. That's
Totally
exactly
different.
what this is.
Oh,
No, it's not. No, it's not.
This is one day a
Totally
week,
different.
a conversion
It
school
doesn't
has
matter,
its own board.
I'm just, let us have our conversations. What I'm talking about is having opportunities, which is all we were trying to investigate at the time. We didn't necessarily say we were gonna designate it to be a school, we were investigating opportunities, period. And that's what I was saying a couple of years ago, let's investigate, whether that's an opportunity or whether there are other opportunities within that whole conversation. That's what we were talking about.
All right, let's focus on the positive.
Now they're gonna be
I am.
I think it's very
Kelly,
positive.
To your point, I absolutely agree that we should be looking at.
And that's
an
all we were
opportunity.
saying a year
But,
ago. That's all we were saying a year ago.
We'll
So
just-
I'm
we'll just-
frustrated, but like I said, I'm happy that we're finally addressing some of these needs. Don't really care how we do it, but I'm glad that we were doing it. and at least having the dialogue and the discussion. And there is money out there, and we've been seeing that. I think Dave's been the one, when he sees these opportunities to forward little glimpses of, here, this is federal money, here, this is state money, this is, let's go for it. So
I'm on a group
we
with
should.
that. I'm on the group with the 250.
We should be going
So
for
I
it.
think following pretty close.
I mean,
So
it's a conversation we should have started a year ago.
Are we guaranteed to get this, or what's the risk that we won't get it December 17th? Like,
100%
what?
chance we won't get it.
Oh, geez, you're very negative, that's not
No,
very
negative.
nice, we're
Well,
positive.
There's money out there.
Realistically.
Realistically, we had, there are certain things you have to do for the grant. One of the things that you don't have to do, but we have done, is we've hired people, this is part of the grant, not our district. As a consortium, we hired people from UC to look over the grant. And the people that have looked over the grant and are evaluating it said we have a very good chance. It's sustainable. The big thing straight A looks at, can you sustain it and can you duplicate it? And are you meeting the unique needs of unique learners in your district? We are looking at the unique needs of gifted learners. They are special ed learners, okay? We are looking at, can you sustain it? Al said we could, and all the districts have also said that are involved. And can you duplicate it? Well, yes, because we're actually duplicating the one that's in Bethel Tate. Because the big thing with straight A funds is they want you to be able to take it, show success with it, and then bring it to another district in the state, so
You already got
everyone's
15 of
growing.
them, so you're, it's actually, I think I was joking, listening to it and reading the rules that you're, just the ink was dry the other day. There's probably a good chance, there's a lot of people going after it, it's $250 million, you know how much you're asking for?
We're asking for 2.2 million,
So less than 1%.
not for just this district.
Yes.
How many people are sharing the 2.2 million?
15.
So it is
So it's a
considerable
good,
amount of money.
it's a good, but it's still a good bang for the buck for the state to go and put something in place, and then we've got 15 replications out of the concept, so.
And all over the state.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's got some really good opportunities. We were at a meeting with Rodan the other day, and they're talking about another replication, these other things. If he pulls it off, it's gonna be pretty nice with these facilities for real job career centers, not the careers. A different level of career center that's really wrapped around a whole different scope of the world, so.
And you said Bethel Tate has, their test scores have gone up extra.
She has the data, it's a three-year, actually it might be 4-year, in science, and they just started collecting that data in math. So it's very exciting, and it touches our kids in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, which is a need that Tammy and I had talked about when I was interviewed, actually, about the need that our kids don't fall off the face of the earth in 5th grade. I mean, after 5th grade, they have honors classes and whatnot, but we're still not meeting a lot of their needs after that. So this is a way to look at offering more and,
Investigating
putting kids
opportunities,
first.
investigating opportunities and creating tools for our administrators and teachers to use that helps kids, and it's creative, it's all open to that, any tool is there.
right.
Ignoring, trying to learn about a tool, I think is myopic at some level, but that said, we're here, so let's, we already put the grant in, right?
Well, it's going in, had to be in by midnight tonight.
Al, you put the grant in?
Oh, yeah.
How did you submit it? They're making me
Part piece of it, that's what we did this afternoon, and I emailed.
Did you hit send?
I didn't say, you got it, right?
Did I email Tammy or did you?
Oh,
I emailed Amy and you.
That's right.
you're making me nervous.
I'm just saying, it's 9:27, so don't miss
We,
the.
I'm
The way those
teasing.
votes go, I guess.
We emailed it, it's all good, and the nice thing is, all we had to do was fill in the figures, the verbiage and everything was done through Bethel Tate, they're doing what is it now, the CCIP or whatever it is, they were doing all that.
The instructions, I had to sit through an hour of video to move the
Oh, my
instructions.
heavens, it was a lot.
And then they waived them all, like you were saying, the ink's not dry. All of a sudden, that CCIP and all that went away 2 days ago, I learned.
Yep, CCIP was.
I was telling you, they was
So
not
I will know, hopefully, the next time that I see all of you will be a great Christmas present, and I will be bringing a letter of
Well,
grant award money to our district.
And then you have to find a building or space and all the logistics start, right?
We've already talked about it.
Get the money
Yes,
first.
and we have a lot of great spaces, yeah. As soon as we get that money, we are moving forward.
That's great.
Any other questions?
Thank you for doing it.
Oh, are you, is there a question?
Well, hold on here.
I just would like to know, how many cognitive gifted do we have? Because there's a difference between gifted by the scores and then the cognitive. About how many do we have that in the district?
Let me,
Oh, let's see.
hold on just a second.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Charles. But there's a place for public comments down the bottom, but go ahead and answer this question.
Okay, forget it, I'll wait. That'll be great. Well, I'm gonna wait here, so.
Just go ahead, answer quickly, please.
I don't know how many, just Superior Cog, the STEM centers would be serving those students that are math and reading and Superior Cog. And I can tell you,
I'll talk to you afterwards.
there are almost 100 students.
On this list right here, this is what you're counting, right? This list, these are identified students.
In Superior Cog with reading and math.
Which have been tested, so on the back of this piece of paper.
Oh, yeah, those I took straight from.
I got it.
Oh, yeah, here, I'm sorry.
I'm going for a walk. I need to walk.
You're awesome.
Thank you. Here.
Here.
Stretch.
Okay, so are we good? Perfect.
Thank you again so much, and hopefully again, like I said, I'll see you in December. And you're all invited, email me and let me know if you want to go to Bethel. It's a nice, beautiful ride.
Is it?
It is, it's all country. Oh, it's country.
Well, let's move on to agenda item. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you for having me.
10.5, update on Freedom Shrine. And I know that Mrs. Strawber's not here, so Tyler, you're going to do it, right?
This is Joe.
We met, I think it was last week, we met last Wednesday, and we decided to go ahead and do a full 30-piece from the Exchange Club, which is the total, it's the complete one. And then we decided on which hallway we're going to do it, and then Mrs. Dauber contacted Ms. Saab, who's the head of the art department, and she agreed, and she says that they would like to do it.
She said an art club, right? Ms. Saab?
Yeah, she's like head of the art department and also art club, so I don't know if she's going to put that into the art curriculum or the art club, I'm not sure.
Art club.
Yeah, but I think we have to map out where the documents will go in the hallway, either like draw on the wall or tape, and then just so they can look at that and then kind of decide what kind of design they want to do, and what they have to work with, and I think that's basically it. And Mrs. Donna wanted me to ask, what kind of budget do we have to work with the display?
What do you need?
Hold on,
Oh.
hold on. Mr. Price, I talked to you today. Oh,
Let her keep
sorry,
going,
I
let her
should
keep
have let
going,
him speak,
let her keep going.
but he did ask me, Mr. Price asked me a while ago, Eric Price presented on the
Oh, I'm
Freedom
sorry.
Shrine from the Dayton Exchange Club. Anyway, I just talked to him today, and he was asking me at one point for business donors. He said, where's your donors, where's your donors? And I sent him some names or sent out a request to some of the business people I know, and one of them responded. So we would like to tell business owners in the area, if they want to get their mark on this, they can help us out, because that'll determine that budget. I wasn't thinking that we'd spend general funds on this. I was thinking this would be contributed and then named after, or perhaps, what am I trying to say? Some kind of recognition or acknowledgement of the businesses that sponsored the wall, because it's a great opportunity for them to get their little plaque up there. So I was thinking it would go that way. But maybe we have to do some of that recruiting businesses to sponsor.
Well, do you think?
I know he's got one, but I think we could use a couple more.
Do you think you'd want to, I'm going to back it up and reverse it. So if you guys have a vision, and then you come up with a vision, and then somebody says that vision costs A, B, C, D, and it means it's 2,000, 4,000, 10,000. Yeah, and I mean, this is something about history, so I don't know what you put a price tag on what you need to do, but if you said it was $5,000 because you guys assessed it as $5,000, then a business or businesses know they'd have a target for $5,000.
And what I think is most important, I think the display is one of the most important things about this, because Mrs. Dauber and Mr. Price asked me the question, do you think that this will affect kids? Do you think they will change their minds to become historians and be interested in history? And I said, it has to be done in the right way, because I think if we just put documents on the wall, people would just walk right by it.
I agree.
It needs to have some sort of lighting, it needs to have something on the wall, so it actually draws attention. And so I think we need to kind of draw or map out what we want, and then through Mrs. Dauber and the art club, and then kind of decide what we want, and then, because I don't think we can ask for donations without having an idea of what we want.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler, this is a learning experience.
Sounds like a gallery.
So after you get
Yeah.
your budget, which one of the board members really likes history?
This is a question.
Which one of them, yes, for you, which one of them really likes history? Because see, now you gotta secure the funds. So you gotta start with each board member and call them on the phone and talk them into the money. So you'll probably wanna start with Mr. Regatta. And then you wanna go to Mr. Petroni. And then you wanna get one of these two to get 3. And then you come back here and support again. That's how you get the money.
Well, and Mr. Price was saying today, I just had him on the phone as I was trying to come here, and he kept me on the phone, but he was in Arlington, yeah, he can talk. In Arlington, I think he was, and he was telling me he was at the Lincoln Memorial, and that they have these shrines, and he got so inspired. He can't wait to come back and tell you guys what he saw, and he's gotten pictures, because he's got maybe a vision that'll help you guys get a vision.
We don't have that budget.
What we can do here. Well, we're putting it on him.
Okay.
We can say to give him business owners' names, but we want to put the budget on him.
We're asking him to contact the 6%.
Well, I gave him some names of some people I knew, and I contacted them, and then when they responded to me, yes, I'm interested, which only one of them did, I then shot him off to him because he was the one that said that the documents themselves, just mounted the way they did the one at Centerville, was like $1,000.
Yeah.
So he knew that part of the budget, but now he said, he saw some things today where he was visiting, he's out of state. Where he was visiting, he said he saw some other kinds of mounting that was even more impressive. I don't know if the budget just went up or not, but I think we'll let him determine how much the mounting of the documents on whatever background he's
Okay,
talking about.
I think that Mrs. Dauber was under the impression that Mr. Price was just, he wasn't really gonna be as involved as he is. I think she was just under the impression that he was going to go through the exchange club and kind of just give us the documents and we had free reign. So I don't think she's under the impression that he will be the kind of a ringleader in this.
No, I'm not sure if he is, but I thought you guys had a committee, and Mr. Wiedemann, and I thought there was a group of people deciding what to do.
When we met on last Wednesday, and it was just Mrs. Dauber, myself, and Mr. Price.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think anybody really cares.
Make sure you
Takes
start
the
your budget with
lead.
him.
I think the goal for you guys is to come back with a vision of what you think's gonna work and
Right.
see how you're gonna present it, bring the presentation, let's talk about it, and whatever, go from there.
I think you're on the right track. We want people to see it, and not just walk by it.
Well, I'm impressed with how prepared you are. You present yourself very well, too. Thank you. Great job.
Is there a timeline that we should come back with a vision, or?
November 7th at 7 p.m.
Okay. We'll work for it.
Yeah, the problem with that, just next meeting's not until December.
Right. Well, I think we have another one November 19th.
There's 2 weeks.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next 10.6, which is Mrs. Strittenberger, and that's a textbook adoption timeline. You've got, I'm going to cut your time
Cut it
down. Sure, you do it in less.
What
Sold.
I'm in, let's do it.
Where do I sign?
One of the things that I think is, that I want to preface my, I guess, presentation to this point is to say that I'm doing a lot of research to figure out kind of where we are in our timelines, and I sent you a bunch of stuff today that is related to probably not answering directly the questions that you probably want to hear at this moment in time, but the textbook adoption schedule and the information that I sent that's basically kind of where we are in doing an inventory of some of the materials that we currently have in our district. While that may or may not be important, I think it was important for me to understand exactly where we were and where we're going, and within the world of technology and ebooks and site licenses and just
the online learning and all the components, pieces and parts to this 21st century college and career readiness concept, it requires me to understand and conceptualize the bigger picture. So I guess what I'm saying is, to put this timeline in place, there's kind of this year of, and I sent this document to you, basically is just a basis of kind of where we're going. Because right now, when I look at the budget, potential budget of our pilot, there is a reduction in the cost because we are not paying for the actual textbook. And while I know there's some current concerns with some online potentials and, some potentially the changing of information when we do something of that nature, there's still a cost differential when you look at textbooks online versus buying hardback books. So there's some information that we have to gather, and I think over time we're gonna save some money and potentially even school fee money because of this where we're going in our direction with 21st century learning. And with technology, with BYOD, all those pieces and parts, there's the assessments that are coming up. I guess what I'm saying to you is I will continue the research and an understanding of what that's going to cost the district. My hope is that I'll have something a little bit more solid here in the next month or so, and that really determines some of these costs as we transition to a different direction. And there's a lot of work. There's a lot going into this, trying to research behind the differences of this transition.
Is this a good direction to go?
I 100% believe that, absolutely. Do I think that there still needs to be textbooks and books in our students' hands? Absolutely, especially our early learners, obviously. I think there definitely has to be that piece of part. And I also think that when you're trying to differentiate for students, I think there's some students that may need that textbook in the classroom and may need to reference some of that material. So I think there is going to be these pieces and parts that we need to transition to, but I still think written words and text is important for students.
Tammy, I think if I take my board member hat off for a minute and I put my mom hat on, a lot of these kids don't bring these textbooks home at all in the lower levels. And I can tell you, just last week, I have one of my children who, the science textbooks, we were putting the book covers on them, whatever, they're 10 years old. I don't know that 10 years old means that it's still acceptable, not acceptable. But I can tell you, going through this and studying with my 5th grader, it was painful to go through the flow of this science book from the standpoint of teaching it. So it was extremely time consuming. I essentially spent the evening reteaching my son stuff that I thought he should have known with a textbook that when you talk to other parents in the district, these kids don't bring them home, ever. It's a very rare occurrence that they come home. So I could almost care less about the textbook, but then when I do see it, it serves to tick me off because the flow of it, the pictures, the things that I'm thinking are going to sink in for your children to learn, it doesn't work. So I guess when we're looking at this textbook adoption and we talked about having parent committees and things, I would love it to see it be more of take a chapter with students in that grade level and have someone actually go through that flow with them and study it like it's actually going to be a test. Because for me, when I look at some of these books, I'm online Googling how to teach certain math things because the book doesn't do it, or the book never came home. So that's just me as a mom who is frustrated with that piece of it, that it doesn't work.
One of the things that I think is significant in a lot of what you're saying is, the one thing about science is you do science. you know, and I know there's a lot of reading and there's a lot of background knowledge and vocabulary and pieces and parts to science that are important, and those visuals are important. But I think, you know, in science, you have to do, it's an active, you know, active learning opportunity. And I think in the classroom, it needs to come to life. And, you know, the situations come to life because kids are more, you know, they want the kinesthetic, they want the visuals, they, you know, the reading of words is becoming, it could be good or bad. I mean, people have different thoughts and ideas on that, but sometimes that can be very daunting for kids. And that's why, you know, you look at strategies of a close read as opposed to you read this whole chapter. You know, they're not into, a lot of times they're not into that. Some kids are. We've got to differentiate in our classrooms to meet those needs. So I get that.
Interest level.
Yes.
What did you say? What did you just say? The book was bad? Is that what you kind of said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying that it's bad, but for example, this was.
Designed bad, it was poorly.
It was poorly designed, and for kids to like kind of go through this with the flow, it didn't work. And so it took me as a parent going through this and studying it with my kid, who must not have been something that was earth-shatteringly memorable in the classroom or was not focused, or what happened there, I don't know. But for me to go back through it and looking at the flow as an adult, and it's vertebrates and invertebrates and all these different classifications underneath of it, and how it should have been logically, it didn't work with what was in the book.
But if you go into the classroom and you know, it's delivered in an active, you know, learning situation through hands-on work, as well as what they see up on a smartboard, and they can see a lot of this articulated through a lesson. Oftentimes it doesn't flow like that in a textbook. You know, that which the teacher is organizing.
I guess my argument would be, as a parent, and this probably isn't for here, but if you're trying to review with your kid who may or may not be, I don't know what's going on in the classroom, not getting it or getting it, not getting it, in my opinion, if we're going back through review questions and it's not sunk in and we need to reference a book, that is all that parent has, is this textbook. And so it's got to make sense if you're going to be that involved and try to help your kid learn these things. Because whatever happened in the classroom didn't sink in to be able to review for the test. Or it needs pulled back out. I mean, and I don't know what that tool needs to be at home to study it, because...
Well, and sometimes that tool is, you know, some kind of audio, you know, and there's a lot of audio supports that take place for kids in the classroom. If you see them, you know, again, if you go into a classroom, you're going to see that kind of work take place. But again, it can't just come from that one-dimensional delivery model.
Right.
And so when you get that textbook, they're not going to recall probably as much as what you have in front of you based on what they just did in the classroom. So it's obviously not a good reference if you're not able to see that flow for the kids.
Tammy, I'm sorry. Could you go over this chart, what this chart means?
Pretty quickly.
Yes, you were in the back.
Oh, she already went over it?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I know.
Can I follow up on Wendy's comment for a minute? Because as we've been trying to get myself prepared for these curriculum discussions and policy, I'm educating myself a little bit, so that's a little bit dangerous. But one of the things I've wondered is that as I'm going through learning about curriculum, is that a well-designed curriculum builds on itself grade to grade, and they're all, you know, grade 5 depends on what's done in grade 4, and not just science to science, but, you know, it's a whole woven fabric to bring kids to a certain point. And, you know, as I look at the course of studies that we've adopted, you know, we've you know, at least in elementary, we just basically, at least our course of studies say, well, we adopted the state standards of come to realize that the state standards are not very specific. And I guess I'm curious as to how well woven together our curriculum really is, because I think maybe that's part of what you're getting at here is, well, you're talking about a textbook, but maybe this particular lesson hasn't had enough of the foundation established so that kids are prepared for that new material. I don't know, and I just wonder where we stand on these kind of things. That kind of drives the textbook discussion, because if we're not well woven together, I don't know if I'm describing this in a very clear fashion, but if we're not well woven together, then, if we adopted a textbook over here in isolation and for 5th grade math, and we adopted a different book over here for 7th grade math, and we didn't really think about all of the learning that needed to happen in 5th grade, whether that 7th grade math book supports the 5th, what they learn. If it's not all tightly put together, there could be pretty big gaps that cause kids trouble in learning. At least that's what I'm gathering from my research. So I wonder how well we are put together, and I think that also plays into these textbooks that we're ultimately going to buy. Is do they fit the overall plan for how we get kids from K up through 12 in a progression that facilitates them learning at the pace that the best pace that they can.
And I guess my point was just too that these lower levels, when you're out and you talk to parents, the kids aren't bringing the textbooks home. So if you're trying to study and you're trying to do it, and then when you do finally study with the textbook in hand, it can be frustrating from my standpoint. Maybe nobody else agrees with me, but that's.
I know my kids brought them home, but maybe they were book geeks or something, but I noticed that I picked up my daughter's backpack out of the backseat of the car so I could drive the car here, and I could barely lift it.
Oh, yeah.
And she can't weigh more than 110, 120 herself.
Well, there's a
so
lot of
I couldn't
studies about the
it's at
backpack
least-
on the spine.
It's at least half her size.
Yep,
I don't know how
UC
she
has done
did.
a lot of studies on that.
I guess but she brings every book home and I said, surely you don't have to bring them all. And she said, I do. Every single one of them she cracks open every night.
You're bringing to us this plan that you're working on. You're giving us an update of the strategy that you're approaching to get 21st century learning, so it's there. You started working on this. You and Don approved $2.4 million, 2010.
Yeah.
August 2010. August 20. 600,000.
Wait for negative things. That was
August
a
24.
That dating plan is
August 2010. Okay, do you need us to do anything else? Because I think you're heading the right, I think what she's doing, I've read it and I've commented on it. I think it's heading in the right direction. If what we choose is the right direction. I think it's going in a good direction. I assume the parents and the kids will like it. It feels good to me.
One of the things that I don't want to belabor it, but I am real, I'm concerned, my biggest concern is the fact that because it's such a transition, my hope is that we do something along the lines of some sort of boot camp or something of that nature for parents, because one of the things that I think is important is that our parents understand and are a part of the transition. So helping them in such a way to say, do we have these periodically so that parents can see, get the device in front of them, let them migrate through the programs so that they can kind of see, get an idea. So I think there's that kind of learning curve. And then for teachers too, the delivery model is transitioning, because one of the things that I did hear is that a parent said that their child came home and made the comment that it seems as if the teacher doesn't do as much, or doesn't need to do as much. Well, that very well could be, because you're more actively engaged in this activity or you're learning in this online. We're used to having a teacher up and lecturing for a long period of time, and then you go do. Well, now we're transitioning where the student becomes more of the doer. So we're in kind of a bit of a transition, and I think it's important that we don't confuse the fact that we do want students to be more actively working as opposed to, someone always, 5 days every day lecturing. And I'm not saying that we do that, but we have to be real careful that we evaluate accordingly and have them actively engaged in these lessons.
One more brief comment. Maybe we should.
I have a comment too.
Mine will be brief. I sat in, was it Mr. Martin that had the parent that's named Chris Strong? Or was that Mr. Blake? I
thought it was Blake.
But one of them had the parent WebEx.
Yeah, it was the pilot, it's that pilot.
The WebEx,
Yeah, and I linked into that. And one of the things that I think, my takeaway from that, I guess, was that most of the questions that Chris was fielding were about the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things we have to be careful of is that the mechanics don't get in the way of learning. So you mentioned boot camp for parents, and maybe that's a good idea, but it did trigger that thought because for an hour there he was fielding almost all questions about the mechanics of it, and that they did things a certain way and it didn't react the way they were expecting it to. And so I guess that's one of the things that you'll evaluate in this pilot, whether the product is, technology is getting in the way of the learning or whether it's actually assisting the learning.
Well, I guess my comment is, first of all, I want to thank Tammy. She spent a lot of time on this. Tammy thinks through things very well. But the comment I have made to her is online learning, it's an absolute investment, and it's an investment by the Board of Education. Online learning, unlike textbooks, is not one of those things you can allocate dollars to and get into it and all of a sudden, well, we got something else we have to spend money on. This is a process. When you get into online learning, you got to have a committed budget that is saying, we have this X number of dollars for the next 5 years, just like we do right now. This isn't something we can get into in a year and a half down the road. Well, hey, guess what? We got to spend it somewhere else, because then what happens is you don't have textbooks, you have online things, you can't renew the information the following year. It's like you're just out of business. So this is one of those things, when you budget for it, that budget doesn't get touched. It stays there for learning. So that is, and I guess that's been my nervousness about this whole thing, and talking with Tammy is, we got a lot going on from November 5th to January 20th. So we got to make sure that it's all a certain way and everyone's on the same page, that we got this budget in place for online learning, and it's going to continue that way, because it's not something you can start and all of a sudden, well, that's just something that's going to get eliminated. So as we move forward, that is one takeaway we have to have with online learning. It's a commitment on everybody's part that's in it.
Great, you made it in under a minute. I'm setting my timer, you get a minute, guys. Okay, next, thank you, Tammy. 10.7, Career and College Academy update.
Just quickly on that, I am going to present this on the next board meeting. What it is, the past year and a half, that was actually even before Tammy and I were here. Tom Gunlock, he is the vice president of the School Board Association, correct? And David had been there, and School Board, not School Board Association. Okay. They had been down to Motoman, Teradata, and some of these places to not only look at what they offer, but those businesses are actually coming to the school saying, man, we want some of your top-notch kids to have an opportunity to work some of these jobs, because I think people have wanted to connect this to the Career Center, and there's nothing wrong with the Career Center. But what we're looking at a College and Career Academy, just very briefly, is that it's for these top students that we have in our district that perhaps might be iffy if they want to go to college, or they want to go to college and they want to work at the same time. There's multiple layers when you get involved with business. some of the starting salaries of Moto Man are like $60,000. So, but what Moto Man is finding in these other businesses, when they go out and try to hire people, they don't have the skill set to be able to do the job they need. They need higher level thinkers for these jobs. My thing is, the superintendent and Tammy's executive director of instruction is to look at what are opportunities we can provide for our kids, that if they want to go straight to work or they want to work and go to college, if that's just their interest and they want to take courses in that, or perhaps do an internship at a place like a Moto Man, that they'll have that opportunity. Nothing more, nothing less. So, I mean, I've heard all kinds of different things since I said on that online chat about we're a college and career academy. It just blew up, I guess, on Facebook. I've read some posts. And it's really sad because everyone is scared to death of opportunities for these kids, but read the paper. There's more than just preparing kids for college. Man, our kids in Springboro, their boundaries are limitless. And you have to fight to get anything different for them. So we are responsible as the adults to make sure these kids have options. That's what we're looking at here. Before we do anything like that, we're going to bring these things in front of the community. If we're able to seal a deal with one of these corporations, we're going to involve our teachers on that so that we can all be working together on it. We just can't have the attitude of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that, it's something different, I'm going to take ridicule for it. We're holding our kids back when we do that. Because right now, when they come into our high school, it's either they're going to college or they're going to the Career Center. That's it. And there's so much more out there than that right now. So it's one of the things we're looking at there. So we'll fully present on it next week. Right now, we're trying to secure partnerships with people. And I mean, it's got some work, but the bottom line is now that it's been brought up, I want to get it out there. And hopefully some businesses will see it because they actually were coming to the schools. The schools weren't going to them. So it's just, and that was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
February 2012.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of years ago, and just nothing happened, and just going in there at one point. And I went to a field trip the other day with, I bet there were probably 75 of our kids there, and they were enamored by these robots in that place, so it's a big deal. So I'll talk more about it next week.
So we should schedule the auditorium for that?
I don't, hey.
And security lining the walls and.
It's opportunities for kids. We're not going to do anything to move anyone in the wrong direction. Let them make their choice.
Yeah, you know, again, part of my curriculum education, but not all kids have the aptitude for college. I mean, the ability varies. Some are great at cognitive skills, as you know, we saw in the STEM Center. Some are great at physical skills, some have great interpersonal skills, some have intrapersonal skills, and they're not all the same, they're all different. And we need to help them find out what they're good at, because if we push you into the college track and you go to, for example, into business, and your aptitude isn't really for business, you might be able to work yourself up to a manager job, but you're going to be a below average manager because it's not your aptitude. On the other hand, if your aptitude was really physical and you could be an outstanding electrician, you're going to make a whole bunch more as an outstanding electrician who runs your own business and can grow a business than you would ever as a below average manager.
Jim, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow
Well,
up.
I understand.
Me either.
I've got the same problem. And they may not know, but the point is that college isn't necessarily for everybody. So more opportunities for kids to explore where their skills really are. How can anybody object to that?
Right.
Well, and this isn't about business getting in with our kids. If one of them landed a job with Microsoft at $2 million a year, we're going to have them here and praise them. So if they land a job for $60,000 at some business, the same thing should happen. It's about these kids finding their passion. And when we don't allow opportunities, we're holding them down. It's that simple. So we're trying to find opportunities for kids.
I think it's two more steps even to that, Mr. Petrie, because I think this type of technologically based conversations that we've been having in the industry that's there, we need to be investigating as a district or as a guidance counselor. I mean, this is an area where this business is emerging. I mean, Teradata, Fortune 50 company, analytics is crazy, and I know the vice president of that company said he will not hire, wasn't against college, but I think I recall his words specifically, we will not hire college graduates anymore. I'd rather have someone out of high school or someone who doesn't graduate. And I have a real life experience of a gentleman I sponsor at OSU. He had a roommate who went and took a job for $65,000. He just quit school. Parents are he's working in his technologically based job. He's such a genius in what he does. He said, hey, they want me $65,000 a year, living at home with his mom and dad. And there's a path in that business to take him to his next steps, but they needed him now to train him. And it's real life. It just yesterday. So yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this because, you know, I had the previous administration in the building and it was.
Well, it's, I mean, it is a lot of work and it's consuming, but the bottom line is we're going to bring this to the students and their parents. And as a family, they're going to make a decision on the path of that child. That's what we're supposed to do as public education. So
the
that's what we're
businesses are
trying to
dying
do.
for interns and kids they can train and wrap their arms around. They can't find anybody. I mean, you listen to the vice president, senior vice president of these companies, and I've had 24 meetings with them over 2 years. And they're like,
Well, quite frankly, I'm just going to say how it is. Centerville got 2 kids there. They've had Project Lead the Way in place for years at their high school. And here we've been working on this for a year, and Centerville finds out they have 2 kids in it because they have this in place. And so I read these things and I get so frustrated that we've been working on this, trying to get it into place with mountains of resistance. Centerville hears about it. 2 kids are in there on an internship. Then we want to sit around and talk about other school districts and what they do. Let's do it. And instead of talking about it and
their
arguing
program's
about
not
it,
even
you got
that,
to do
their
it.
program's not even that exciting. So I hope we don't.
They
quite
got 2 kids
replicate
in
that.
there,
I know.
so it's that simple.
I know it is. I was a little annoyed at that.
Me too.
Sorry.
Well, I think Warren County Career Center is way ahead of us on, they're participating in Project Lead the Way as well.
It all depends how you get into it. I just want our kids to have the option. They can make their, kids and their parents can make the choices.
I didn't get the indication Project Lead the Way is what we're talking, what you're talking about, but it's
No.
simple, but anyway.
There's
I appreciate
multiple layers of it.
Sounds great. So is there an action item?
No.
Okay. You're just going to talk about it during a board meeting?
Correct. Well, more of it is, are you going to support this, is what I'm going to look at. Because as we get out and we're taking the time with these business people and we're trying to get in there, and if we were able to land a deal with them to allow our kids in there, then there's college courses that are going to align with that. So it's things like that. We
Do we have to buy a robot or 2?
Wow.
Some of these
Never know.
dual credit courses that they would
Correct.
like our students to take?
Correct.
Oh, I see.
Sinclair is in the room.
All that's in the plan, so
Oh, I
I'll be
see.
able to explain all that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, 10.8 is high school numbers and AP courses, or we can talk about that since Andrea's not here.
Yeah, oh yeah, we've worked on it together, and Tammy's been involved in it, so I'm sure she'll chime in. What I wanted to do, you know, of all the things that we've dealt with as a central office, that I've dealt with as superintendent since I've been here, is this underlying, we have this attack on Springboro High School. There is no attack on Springboro High School. How all this started, when Tammy and I took the job, the first thing we did is we sat down and we examined our data. And our data said to us that at the earliest level that our kids take assessments, state tests, our proficient rate is huge. And if you look 3 through 12, it stays huge and gets a little bit larger all the way through. When you look at our classroom sizes at some of the earliest levels, they're running 24, 25, 26, 27, and right now at SI, they'll jump up to 28, 29, every once in a while 30 for some of our youngest learners. What we didn't have was the reading support, and we didn't have the gifted support. At best, the gifted support was stretched as thin as it could be so that we could say to the state, we're covering gifted, when really it was stretched so thin, we weren't.
We weren't.
So our task was, in looking at this, if this district is going to move forward and maintain the excellent level that it has, under the new state requirements, proficient no longer is going to be passing. And this is how this discussion started. So with that, when you come in, just like any business, and the gentleman that here tonight talked about, you have to evaluate the whole organization, not just building to building, or for this building in isolation needs X number of people, but we're going to leave everything else alone. And I think in the past, school districts have been run that way, because if you touch something here, there's such controversy to touch anything. But what that resulted in is we're gonna spend $500,000 here, we need to run 11, because this is what's best. But no one ever stopped to look at the whole organization and the way the money's being spent and allocated on certain expenses. So we broke it down and went through this, and what we found when we got to our high school, and I'm not saying anything was wrong with the high school, I thought numbers this low would be fine. But the bottom line is, you can still see, even here today, still to today, we have a lot of classes under 20, 15, 20. The criticism has been, we stopped AP classes. One AP class will stop. AP Art History, it had 11 kids in it. After 4 years, it had built up to 11 kids. But what people have to understand was, we had other kids waiting to get into our other art classes because that's what they wanted. Now, some people are going to say, we should have left the art teacher there. $100,000 a year, $80,000 plus the benefits, roughly $100,000 a year. The teacher saw 55 kids a day. Unacceptable. We cut that position and we transitioned it over to where we're now, in the cutting AP Art History, we're able to service almost 160 more kids. Now, some people say you cut 20 classes. 20 classes weren't cut. 20 sections were cut. I verified this again yesterday with the team leaders. 20 sections were cut, but each of those sections probably had 15 to 20 kids. And I'm not making these things up. Andrea went through every single course. And online we have 2012 class numbers and 2013 class numbers. And then we've broken it down on a spreadsheet. And in essence, in our elective classes last year, we had an average of 22 kids a class. This year, we have an average of 25. If you look at our core classes, last year in the English language arts area, the class average was 24, and this year it's 25. Now, some people's going to say, and the teachers have said, because I met with them right here in the room, why is it we have 30 in one room and 20 in another? To be perfectly honest, I didn't have an answer to that. Andrea, when we went into this, I learned that it's the way they schedule the kids. She used an electronic scheduler. And when you use an electronic scheduler and you port all of these things in, it balances the classes for you. That is why there's an imbalance in our class. This year when we go to schedule the high schoolers, it'll be dumped into an electronic scheduler and it will balance those classes.
So it wasn't electronically scheduled before?
Correct.
And that's why it was balanced?
Correct.
And will the electronic scheduling speed up the schedule?
Pardon me?
Will the electronic schedule?
It won't speed up the schedule. Actually, it'll cost us a little upfront time because you're going to download the whole course of study into it. So it might cost some extra hours.
That's a sticking point.
What's that?
Why the other districts, most districts in the area get their schedules the beginning of August and we don't?
Oh, no.
That was my question. That's
Our goal this
Good.
year is we can get the course of study completed. Our goal is to have the schedule done in May. So
Well, I'll be happy with the first, I'll be happy with the first week of August.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of school, we're going to have a preliminary on where these kids are placed so that all summer long we can.
I don't want to change
Yeah.
your thought, but I know that Don, when I first got board, he was asking
Yeah.
about that, and it was from a year earlier that was.
What that
I've been
does
asking every
is,
year consistently.
8 years.
well, I have a sheet right here that's going to show you what that does, is when you can't deliver it in May. Nonetheless, social studies, last year we had 1,182 students. Class average was 23. This year we have 1,162, class average of 25. Math, last year was class average of 23. This year it's 24. Science, last year was 22. This year it's 22. So my point I'm making is, as far as number of kids, Andrew even broke it down with kids, we're not very different, okay? And compared to where we were last year to this year, did we lose some? All classes are valuable. Any piece of knowledge you can give a young child is valuable in one way or the other. When we look, we have 67 electives that are offered. 14 of those right now have 30 kids in them. If you go to Kettering, if you go to Mason, Sycamore, all these districts, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I look for, if people agree or not. I look if they accelerate academics and if they continue to compensate a highly qualified staff. That's the two things I look for without running levies every 18 months, like we were in the practice of. I've talked to some of these superintendents and all of them have told me the same thing. You have to control costs at your high school if you're going to fund the rest of your district appropriately. That's the main thing. And I've said these same things to the high school teachers. When I have these discussions, some people get inflamed, some people don't. All I can tell you is from where I'm sitting, the impact of reducing 3 teachers at the high school made very little impact, because we were able to turn that around and get 5 intervention specialists, 2 for gifted, 3 for reading intervention at the elementary levels, to where when we were starting, we had 3,000 kids with 5 or 6 intervention specialists. In a very polite way, the only thing I can say to that is, who does that this day and time? We should have about 10 right now. Then the question becomes, why don't we have more kids in AP? Well, if you're not educating the kids at the youngest level, like any research will show, how are they going to be prepared for the AP classes when they get there? So my next point, as I looked at this, and you do a whole graph of the district in terms of classroom numbers, which is what I have provided for you on one of these sheets here, actually copied it back and front. This is all of our buildings and their classroom numbers by class. The junior high I don't have here, it's about that thick. They average 27 kids a class, okay? Right now you can look on here, and just where we're at right now in high school with our oldest students, who in 2 years are going to go to colleges, and you'll be hard pressed to find a college class with 25 kids in it. Right now at SI, they have up to 32 in some classes. If you look at Dennis in 5th grade, they hit one with 31. They have 28, 29, 4th grade. They have one with 22 because it's an inclusion class. They're all 25, 26, 27. My question was, in running an organization, why would you have your smallest number of students in a class with the oldest kids in the district? I haven't seen any research to support that. None, period. And to continue to make that happen, I think if you can have small classes, awesome. If we can have 20, 22 kids in every class in the district, hey, that'd be great. So let's look at what that would cost. I did a breakdown of that. And if we want to have right now the same number of kids at Dennis and 5 Points, from basically 4th grade through 8th grade, to be running 23 to 25, $1,050,000. We would need 20 teachers to make that happen. Per year? Yeah. Per year? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now imagine what that's going to do to a budget. And I'm not saying that's best, because right now there's a lot of real literature out there on classroom sizes. A lot of literature out there. It's the support that they get that's most important, and that's the angle that would win. The next one is if we bring the 3 teachers back to the high school, and then balance the classrooms, we would need $1.27 million to be able to accomplish that. Now, I don't know about you this day and time, you can't even question doing something like that. That's an option I would want to give to you as a board or any other board that we have. However, to me, I don't see how that would ever happen. Then it goes back to, well, how packed are the high school classes? And this is where the course of study comes in. So Andrea was able to develop not only this report, which shows we actually have right now, on average, 1,162 available spots throughout the course of a year. Okay? With those 3 teachers that would have remained there, we would have broken 2,000 available seats. Plus, you already can see right now how small the classrooms are, and they're still quite small. This sheet right here, because one of the things that I ran into was, we have this many because they have to have prerequisites to get into these classes. This sheet shows everything that we have that does not require a prerequisite to get into class. And right now, in the first quarter, we have 279 available seats that are available that they do not need a prereq for. All of the information up above here are how many seats we have left in each of these classes. So if the cap is at 30, for example, entrepreneurship, we have 12 seats left, so there's 18 kids in there. Team sports, we have 21 seats left, so there are 9 kids in that class.
And that class is offered or not?
Yeah, see, because the thing is, when you do your schedule to where you're in August starting it, you can't cut these classes because you can't get a teacher that late in the year. And the thing is these teachers teach more than one class, so you got to leave it. But we have art that I don't have here. All of our art classes, none of them have less than 27 kids in there. Now you're going to say to me, Todd, why'd you cut art? Well, that's a great question. And in essence, that was something we worked through, and that was the last person hired. So that was one of the reasons that person was going to be moved out. But clearly, we need to add an art position back. And we will have to do that through moving some around from other areas. Another example, sociology, 11 seats left. Fashion merchandising, there's 20 seats left.
On the 30 average. So that means
On
there's-
30 average. So, you know, as a superintendent, and my thing is, my passion is educating kids. I get pretty frustrated when we have special ed teachers with 12 on their caseload of kids who need every ounce of our energy to take care of them in a fashion merchandising class with 10 kids in it. I have a problem with that. Okay, so when people bash me or whatever, you know what? I sleep great at night with this decision because the decisions we've made are going to be best for kids. So as we move forward in this, it's tough to hear we're reducing the rigor of the high school. When the only thing that was reduced was an AP art history class, and we still have 2 other art AP classes. One of the things that I did want to bring up are study hall sizes. I read the post that it was a terrible day in Springboro that we had so many kids in study hall that they couldn't find a seat to sit down. Basically, right now in study hall, here it is, and you have it on here as well. What we've done is compared the size of the study hall classes last year to the size of the study hall classes this year. There was a report, we had 400 kids that had 2 study halls. We have 157 kids with 2 study halls. Here's the amazing thing about that. There is no report in any system in Springboro that can be run to show how many kids have 2 study halls. For the first time, we asked the study hall monitors to ask each of the kids in study hall. That's how they found out.
So you're saying that.
So there's no proof that we've never had that many kids in 2 study halls, okay? So to hear these things, and what is the frustration is when people think they're accomplishing something, it is the people who are questionable about supporting our district in times of a renewal that says, wow, why is that place such a mess up there? When it's this intention from one adult to hit each other down, all we're doing is jeopardizing funding for kids to be able to get things right. This is the frustration. But as you look through here, we have over 100 more kids in this high school this year. So in first period alone, now I want you to know, we have not reduced the kids who are allowed to leave 10th period yet, and we have not pulled the team mentoring kids out of these numbers. We're at a lot of kids that leave 10th period. They've always been allowed to leave 10th period. So down at the bottom, you'll see, actually, let me just go through this. In first period last year, we had 122 kids. This year, we have 188. Second period, we had 145. This year's 177. Last year, we were at 166. We're 214. So you're seeing a little increase. Now, on some of these, though, you see we stayed stagnant or went down a touch. Ninth period, it, to me, was the largest jump, 187 last year, 238 this year. But again, in proportionality, it's not extreme when we have over 100 more kids in the high school. With over almost 1,611 kids, I think we have in this high school right now.
You mentioned the kids that were allowed to leave 10th period if they have study hall.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these kids with 2 study halls,
Planned it.
may in fact have 1 study hall and then they leave
Right.
10th period.
Well, here's the thing, and in talking with these districts listen, I'll just say it, I mean, everyone may not agree with me, they are paying teachers. And maybe it's what they've paid in the past. Kettering, they allow their kids to leave the last 2 periods of the day. So we've studied these courses of study. Once the kids have enough college credits, you don't necessarily have to keep them in school. They let them leave early so they can go to college. So what we're trying to do, which some schools haven't really done, is we're trying to implement the dual credit in these study halls. So that, as you can see, for us spending $50,000 basically, we could cut these study halls in half and have the smallest study halls we've ever had in Springboro High School. Kids sitting in this room right here getting dual credit, $7,000 that they're not gonna have to take loans on.
Why do they have to sit here and do their online learning? Can't you go home?
Well, no, we have to have a teacher overseeing them that's a certified teacher. That is a question though, because any online class I've ever taken, because by what Sinclair says, they're allowed to work on it at home, but it has to start out in a lab. It's a government thing with dual credit. So I guess my thing is, I'm happy. I've actually met with some students who spoke at board meetings.
How many times do they have to meet in a lab though?
Just during their study hall.
How many days a week?
Every time they have study hall.
Who's to say they have 5 days a week?
I got 1 study hall a month.
What I'm saying is that you can service more kids if you put them in study hall 1 day a week and then they leave early.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of high schools doing these types of things. We've brought these things up, and it comes out, we're diminishing the level of education. But when they get to college, at Ohio State, UD, all these places, they're doing online learning.
Well, they have to have some reason to campaign. It's all campaign nonsense.
Well,
We know it's not true.
and for me, and you know me,
But that's
Doctor,
the truth.
I don't get hung up too much in all the campaign stuff. I come here for one reason, and it was trying to get these kids an education so they could follow the path that I went. It's that simple. I'm one of the few that grew up where I grew up at that got an education that's put me here. Knowledge is power. But the bottom line is Springboro kids have an edge, an absolute edge on a lot of other kids in other communities because they have parents that support them with money to send them where they want to go. Our kids, they have every opportunity in the world to be successful. Every opportunity in the world to be successful.
Well, the money's not there, but anyway.
Well,
We got
nonetheless-
we got the other parts too.
Well, the parents here, though, are determined enough that they fight for their kids to make sure their kids go to college and they help. And that's what's very respectful about this community. So basically, what I wanted to present tonight, I could talk about this all night long. If Andrea was here, she could add to it. I'm sure Tammy has some things. I do get passionate about it. I get a little frustrated about it. And I'm sure when people watch this video, they're going to be frustrated I say these things. I'm not bashing the high school. We have outstanding teachers. Outstanding teachers. Our national merits prove it. You sit down with any of our teachers, those of you who had kids here, and you know it. We have good teachers. We get to pick of the crop when it comes to hiring new staff. But it's up to us, from a Board of Education and administration, working collaboratively with people to put things in place to give kids options. And that is from preschool through 12. And that was the main reason some of these classes were reduced at the high school.
I know I tell you to stop reading the blogs, but
I don't have to read them anymore. I
They
hear
don't
people
bother you
sit
if you
through.
don't read them.
Well, no, people now.
But I'm glad you're clarifying things just for the camera. I hope people are watching, will watch this, and I'm glad you're clarifying things for the
And I'll have
for the
people
community,
now, they're
because
coming
They need to know
around,
what's
yeah.
true and what's fiction.
Well, they'll send me the blogs, because I'm not on active Springboro, but they'll send me the things being said on there, and a lot of people I'm finding are starting to defend it and saying, wait, stop.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
They've
I
got
mean, trust is being built,
Truth is truth.
but I'm just telling you, we're never, in this central office staff, going to reduce any rigor for kids. All we're trying to do is promote more. So any ideas we have, hey, I'm an easy guy to get a hold of. Email me, call me, love to eat lunch with somebody, and let's sit down and talk about new ideas. Tammy and I do it all the time. We have parents that love to sit down and talk with us. So we're here to facilitate education for every one student in Springboro.
Appreciate it.
It's a lot, that was like a ton of information. And I guess what I read it when you sent it, we were online in regards to the high school. And I feel like my experience in February of 2012, when we were talking about the program of studies, this has some wraparound, wrap to that, because it sounds like you're, awards aside, it sounds like operationally speaking, what you just said, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that our high school is a money pit and it caused some grief potentially to this district as a whole for years, because it's being, when you look at a class of 4 or a class of 9 or a class of 8, that means that either we're offering the wrong classes, which goes back to the wraparound with the program of studies, or there's something else going on. What am I missing?
Well,
what
and
am I feeling like you're trying to say?
My intent isn't to, and at this point I do have to watch everything I say, but my intent's not to place blame. My intent is to look at what we did right in the past and what we did wrong in the past to make sure we get it right in the future. So, I mean, I think if anyone can draw a conclusion from these numbers. For me, our smallest classrooms in this district right now are in this high school, other than our kindergarten building. The class numbers are going to have to raise some at the high school. It's that simple.
Success shows up in many different ways, and I think, what has happened in the past is it is what it is, and I think there's a lot of evidence to show that there's been a lot of success.
Absolutely.
And I think the whole notion of where things were in the quote unquote money pit or something of that nature.
Not a good adjective.
Well, and I guess, no, and that's okay.
I just didn't know what to frame it as.
But I think, you know, when you look at the bigger picture and kind of the direction that the district and the supports that are taking place with some of these changes, I think, you know, that's the direction that I think we need to see, you know, and continue and build on the successes and look at these pieces and parts that need to be adjusted and changed, and it's just time to do some of those things. So it's just taking that step to move forward in that pathway to another level of success. So it's just time to, it's the timing piece. So I think there's a lot of truth to successes, but you know, I guess I don't want to be Pollyanna on it, but the fact is that, you know, you build on what you have, and I think we have to look at these pieces and parts that need to be adjusted and changed and reallocated. Our expected third grade guarantee tells us we have to do something different than what we used to do. To say that, you know, we weren't doing the right things, I think would be wrong. But something else, that target has changed. So the targets are changing for our kids at the high school level. Those levels of expectations are looking different. Technology is taking over in so many different ways, and we have to prepare our kids differently. So it's just, sometimes those reallocations are painful, and that change is painful, but it's just things that need to be done.
But, you know, a big part of this, sorry, go ahead. A big part of this is by getting the information in people's hands earlier. Getting the schedules out there, getting them out there in May, so you can look at things. And then honestly, there is a cost benefit, if you would, of this. And I'm not talking dollars and cents, but if you're looking at a class that has 10 in it, the benefit there you're losing on educating 20 more students. You got to look at it that way. And obviously, you don't want to take, you don't want anybody not to get the class that they want. But at the end of the day, you also got to balance things.
Right.
And if you only got 10 people in a class and you've got all these other people trying to get into a section that's been closed up, we've got to reallocate our workload. You know, we don't have an infinite number, you know, of resources.
No.
And we've got to be smart. We got to provide the maximum amount of educational benefits to the maximum amount of kids. And unfortunately, life isn't exactly fair, and there may be some classes that, there are some sections, not classes, but some sections that need to be closed out, and that's just the reality of it.
Well, you're bringing up a great point. And we're still going to have some at the high school that are 17, 18, but we are going to have them. When we bring the course of study to you, which when you really get into the course of study, the way we're needing to do it, there's all the courses, but then there's these particulars that are the foundation of it, of how many kids need to be signed up for a class before it's offered. We're going to have to determine that as a board. Do we allow kids to leave 2 periods a day early? What is the impact of that? Me personally, we're at 21 credits at our high school. I believe it should be 22. I believe in freshman and sophomore year, they should be required to take 6 classes each. Now, in the past, and I know in talking with Dr. Malone, that's been the expectation. We need that in writing to where we're promoting that.
It becomes a policy.
It becomes policy. So there's things like that that we do need into place to make sure that that never gets changed to some extent, and that becomes our level of service, and we're defining that. And then some people think, well, that's going to cost more money. No, it won't. It will not cost more money to raise that expectation. It will not cost more money.
What's the rationale behind it?
Well, the rationale behind it is it pushes kids into some of these upper level classes in the freshman and sophomore year. It challenges them in terms of what it is we're going to guide them to take. Because one of the things that the high school at work report said to us was you've got to get rid of all these barriers in between classes. In other words, you got to do a portfolio to get into English straight out of 8th grade. Or you got to have a certain GPA to get into one of the AP classes. It's a philosophical adjustment that we have to look at. The cap sizes on class, that's one I didn't hit. The understanding was we personally moved everything to 30. The thing about it was the AP classes are all still capped at 25, just like they were last year. The English department was already at 30. Some of these changes had already been made. I didn't even know that. It was just in hearing and talking to other superintendents. What's your average cap? Some of them are 30 to 35. 35 seems high to me. 30, okay. We do want to keep that level of expectation there. Where it hit us hard was the electives. But again, I'm just going to say this, why would you have your electives lower than your core classes? So it's some of these things that we're looking at and we're getting through to get balance, because if you don't have balance there, you're totally imbalanced at the other grade levels.
Well, doesn't the low electives means in the high school mean low interest?
It does, and that, when we're actually doing a survey of the kids on Monday morning, actually, Ms. Daniel is, to ask them, what is it that you like about the course of study, what don't you like, what do you think about online learning, what class would you like to see offered more of? We already know right now, the eighth, first thing Monday morning. Okay. Right now, we know from our research, our ACT prep class, we could probably offer that every single period and it would be full. I mean, and the parents are furious we don't have more sections of it now.
The ACT, that prep class.
Of that ACT prep class, to my understanding, it hasn't been around, but what, 2 years or something like that?
You tried getting it in 2012,
Was that-
February till 2013.
Well, I mean, now,
It got into the program of studies in
2012, 2013, program studies got in.
yeah, and then the class was offered the following fall.
2 years.
Yeah, he's been, he's been 2 years.
Right, that would be.
well, and I think what he just said is part of the equation is the teacher teaching the class, Mr. Holweger. The kids love how he teaches. So if you go by his room, he's always up, he's always active, he's always energetic, he's always got a story about the time they all start to fall asleep. So it's a very good class. But I guess in closing, for me, just especially since we're here in a board meeting, the number one thing I think we have got to do as a district, as an administrative staff, as a board of education, as a community, and I think the one thing that's lacking is appreciation for our staff. I don't believe it's there like it should be. This year with negotiations the way that it went, it really, I think they were just flabbergasted that they received an increase. Flabbergasted. I mean, you walk into these buildings, it was a statement of respect that went a very long way with them that they hadn't seen. When levies were passing, they still weren't getting anything to some extent. We have defined there's a market value in this profession, but it's even more than money. It's just the level of respect and how we increase that. That's going to be something that we're going to have to look at and work on and talk about. But happy teachers present in front of happy kids. They make happy kids. And I guess for me, that is one of the main things I want to look at here. Amongst all these numbers and all these philosophies that we may have, it comes right down to that human being that's in front of those kids that matters the most. So I think as a district, as a group of parents, and when we're watching these blogs and everything else, we do have to understand.
Or is it the teachers that mention things about our lousy Board of Education to Board of Education?
And we've spoken to a lot of
Those
yeah.
ones?
We have, well,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest with you, some of the kids didn't
Let's
come
talk
to me and
about
we've
those.
addressed it. So we're all trying to find a balanced
There
playing
really needs
field
to
here.
go both ways and encourage to go both ways.
I mean, it really does, Todd.
Yeah.
I mean, when I have elementary age kids and you want to go there, I don't talk negatively about Springboro teachers. There is no reason for that to go on. So I try to be respectful, but I'm not really going to listen to what I need to portray or give off when I have kids coming home, my own kids coming home at the kitchen table talking about it. I wish that this data would have been provided 5 months ago to see 4 kids in a wood technology class, and we did cut it, but we sat there and had to listen to this stuff about it being cut.
That class did
And
not
that's-
have over 18 in any of them.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, I agree. I didn't get my hands on this last year, but nonetheless, when I saw the wood classes as well, it was my understanding we were packed to capacity in those rooms, and it was going to be devastation. But you're right, one of the classes had 4 kids, and none of them broke 18. So
And we have the computer system to do the electronic scheduling.
we do.
We've had it for years.
Okay.
We do. So
And we're gonna use it?
Yes, yes. Well, I will tell you, I mean, Tammy's department, I mean, it's some of the things they put into place, having Mrs. Cook with her knowledge. I mean, last year we paid the ESC to do $8,000 or $9,000, $10,000 worth of work for us. It would, I would hate to have seen the price tag it would have cost to have gotten the reports that we've gotten through some of the things that she's done. So it's been a wealth of knowledge that's going to last us for years.
And now, Miss Daniels knows how to do that, right?
Yes.
So she can
Well,
generate
we're
these
going to train
reports.
not only Ms. Daniel, but the counselors. In a school this size, I mean, our high school is larger than a lot of school districts. So and we're projected to have roughly 2,000 kids in a couple of years. And John's going to go over those numbers next week. And granted, all the number stuff, it's up and down. It's all projections, and we know how those can end up. But yeah, all of them are going to be trained on. They're eager to get trained on, so.
Good.
Thanks for pulling this together. I think it just keeps, every meeting, and I don't know how to, I'm here 2 years now, and I finally feel like there's some, well, in operations and business, you have to have processes, you have to have plans, you have to have programs that work, and it just feels like it's just another step where you've taken information a year ago from
Man, I need a battery to plug in.
ESC, and anyway, I'm looking forward to the next vote. I think we have a vote for a program of study, so I can move that we take that to the board and go forward.
We're working for processes and we're working for systems, but the main thing we focus on are the kids. And I think some of the feedback I've gotten is you guys always talk like business people. You know what? It's a $50 million budget. You got to talk business every once in a
Well,
while.
I think I said something about PD today, and I've been talking about how to do these things and wrap around. So this thing about, what we respect and what we don't respect has been fabricated, and fabricated, purely fabricated. And it's great that there's that fabricated attitude out there, but that's not who I am. I don't think that's who these people are. And again, our actions, our votes, our support for you guys is what we do. So, all this other stuff is just unnecessary. And some of those things I've seen in the blogs I kept out, and there's just some nasty stuff out there that people are saying. I mean, it's.
I don't read them.
I got an email to me. I got an email trend from this thing.
Yeah, I guess people are shocked.
I don't read, yeah, it is.
They said they email them to us.
Some of the nasty stuff that people are saying about some of the candidates. Anyway, I digress.
All right.
They always have.
Just got nothing
Probably
better?
always will. So let's go on,
Sorry.
10.9, are we on 10.9?
10.10.
10.10?
No.
No, we're not, that's why you were hoping. You were
Already
hoping.
moved it, second,
Okay,
let's go.
Did you
electronic
already
course.
approve it?
I did.
Study.
I moved it, second.
Okay.
Okay, so can we go 10.10?
Do you want to have a question?
We have, yeah, I have one question.
10.9.
Would you move?
I was joking.
You can't vote in work session.
Go ahead, Tim.
Can we change the name of the course of study has a connotation in the Iowa Revised Code for, it's a specific legal term. And it's, the definition in the Iowa Revised Code is different than what we're intending. We're intending kind of like a course catalog. I've seen it, well, Dr. Malone used to call it program of studies, as opposed to course of study. Whereas course of study is in the ORC is the document that the board approves the curriculum or the actual content of the course with. And I just think if we use that term, that it might get confused. It'll just help keep policy clear.
So you use program of studies as opposed to course
Or
of studies?
course catalog or something like that, as opposed to course of study, which has that specific legal connotation. That's all I had.
Confusing title, so. Okay, can we move on then?
So what is 10.9? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
Just in summary, what we currently have versus what we put on board docs is Fairmont is kind of an example. We've looked at several, but what we want to do, we work with the very same company that works with Fairmont to look at what they can do for us to transpose what we currently have into something that gives the alignment and all the articulation of courses and requirements and everything that would be electronic and not necessarily that a hard copy, but then we could attach in the second year, so not necessarily this year, but transpose what we have, make some minor adjustments to create a document that looks like this, that eventually we take over and we manage, but we want to get someone to do this whole, transposing of what we have, and then add on the second year where we have a link that has the syllabus, that has what's being accessed for that particular class and the requirements. So we're looking at that as well, to add to this, the second year, that being next year. So basically transpose what we have to this, something similar to it. That's what this contract is.
Is there an action item with that then, next meeting?
Well, we do need action on this because we want to start, we need to, can we vote on, are we able to vote on?
Well, I think Dr. Coles can have the levity to just sign off on it since it's only $4,500.
Oh, I see. So you just want to know if there's opposition?
Yes.
That's all. You don't need a voter?
No, I just need to know so we can move forward.
Yeah.
That needs a board president to sign off since it's under.
There's not
under
opposition,
$25,000.
I assume that's okay. That's how I see it. Okay. So, should we move on to 1010?
And we're gonna put the fee amounts for the books in that, right? Because remember, people were so mad because they found out that accounting something cost $115 for a
Oh, yes.
workbook or something.
Yes. I just got approached the other night at the band concert about I think it was I'm not sure if it was accounting, but it was some kind of $85 book. And I thought, I asked you guys, do they know in advance when they sign up for these courses that these costs are huge? And I thought I was told that, yeah, they know about it. Well, let's make sure they know, because this parent said I wouldn't have signed my son up for that class had I known the book was gonna be $85. We just can't, I don't know what you guys,
You know,
we
we're
can't
gonna
afford
have
it
to
out
read
here.
that legal thing
We
again.
can't afford this.
About charging for these books.
Because
We
they
charge the
won't
school
take some of
fees,
these
so that's
courses.
how
It's the
I get around
workbook.
it.
It's the workbooks
But
that
no,
poorly.
she said he doesn't take it home. No, we talked about it being the consumables. But she said they don't take those books.
That is a
There's lots of
benefit
those books they
of
don't take home.
Online learning, a lot of those things will come, all you need
Just
your
saying.
notebook.
That's a major impediment to getting kids to sign up
Yeah,
for
they do
class.
have, they have lab fees and things like that included in there.
You may want to add, I didn't strike it, just as a design scenario, if you're going to be printing these things every year, I'm just,
No,
but the fees might change every year.
but we'll have the ability to go in and make our changes and then turn it into a read-only document for everyone else.
Versus an attachment that you have a fee
Correct.
schedule attachment that can just.
We're giving that job to Jim.
What's that?
Going in on that computer where he touches the screen and just changes it.
I just need, before we go, I want to, forget. I want to just clarify though, what I said about I wasn't talking about the teachers in the high school being money pit. Yeah, I was thinking about that when I left here. I'm not trying to be derogatory, it just seems like operationally, something wasn't right there. So that's what I was trying to get at. But I was shocked by what I was hearing, so I want to just clarify that.
Too late.
Thank you.
And Clifton. All right.
Okay. It's already on
Put it in.
Facebook. Already on Facebook.
Okay.
It's done. 1010, Springboro High School Competition Cheerleaders Trip to Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, they, February 6th through 10th, they are going to the UC Nationals competition. No doubt.
Is this the one they win every year?
I guess so.
Do
They've
they?
gone every year, and they are filling out the permission slips if any parents drive. We've got that one down to where the parents' name's on there. Any kids who are going, and the parents sign off next to the child thing.
Don't they get tired of it every year?
You ever get tired of winning? I don't know.
No, I didn't know they were. That's cool.
We do have a
Okay,
executive session.
so is that it on that? That's all? Is there an action item that'll be on the board agenda for that?
It's really just letting you know.
Oh.
You will have to sign off, though, as board president.
Hey, again, I have to know if there's opposition, so I'm not signing something that everybody says, what did you do that
I just
for?
thought that it was you had to let, at any time you left the state, you just had to let the board know. I didn't think there's
The board president has to sign. You gotta have consent for the board.
Anybody opposed?
Yeah, that's what I just want to know if there's opposition.
I'm not opposed, I always
Sign.
got the policies.
It's the ORC, I'm pretty sure, Jim. Our attorney's told me.
1011, public participation. Is there any public participation?
Yeah, can we get better copies of the stuff that Tammy was talking about? When I tried to read it before the meeting, the ones that were part in the board docs, I couldn't read it at all. They're really, I don't know unless they changed it from 2 days ago.
What did she talk about again?
All the stuff about her courses and how many people are in different things. It was really bad copies.
I just printed mine today and it was.
It was okay, so maybe they cleaned it up. Okay. And the other thing I just have to say about high schools, high schools are expensive. I mean, I have friends that send kids to private schools, and it's amazing how much it changes from elementary to high school. I mean, high school is triple or quadruple what they're paying in. I mean, that's just kind of the cost of doing business. And the thing that I'm listening, some of these electives are going to be lower because, 50 kids start out in Spanish 1, and then 30 go to Spanish 2, and you just keep getting smaller, but you're going to say, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to ever let you have Spanish 4 because not enough people fell in love
I don't
with
think that's
Spanish.
what we're talking
It's
about.
not,
Okay.
and I would like to clarify that. I studied St. Xavier, which is the #1 school, half the size of ours, triples the National Merit Scholars. They have an hour and a half of planning a day. The kids, hour and a half a day, are allowed to leave to go to lunch. They're allowed to be there, float around the building, do whatever it is they want to do for an hour and a half instead of doing a lot of study hall. I've actually studied the private school concept of the way that they do things, and that's what I would like to see instilled in the high school. We're one of the few that keep kids in school all day long like
But
that.
I'm just saying that, I'm amazed with parents that I know that when they push them up to high school, how much their cost increase.
Oh, I agree. Kettering Fairmount is #5 in the state of high schools. Check their caps out and their class sizes. You'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, I spent some time before I opened my mouth about this.
We're talking, this is an operational question. We're talking about operations. You're not talking about what we're taking or not giving.
We're not taking anything away by any
Well, I'm
means.
just saying, when we talk about electives, we need to be careful that
We're not talking
they are
about
gonna get
elections.
smaller.
We're talking about operations. You know, we're not.
My
To be
thing-
fair, I was talking about,
Okay, I'm not
I was
talking
talking about, I mean, to be honest, if there's a fashion class and it has 10 people in it,
I was shocked at fashion merchandising, guys. I found out on Friday and my jaw hit.
yeah,
It's like,
I
there's
just,
10 kids, right?
I didn't know about, I wouldn't support it having it open, to be quite honest. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, if you look at our elementary
I don't
numbers,
have
there's
no
always
thoughts
going
about
to
it.
be a straggler that has low numbers. It's just like you said, if we end up with 40 kids for Spanish, or 45, you're going to end up, what I would do in something like that is I would create 2 classes of 20. Okay, so there's going to be an explanation for that. And that's some of the reason for this in here. But when you have what they call singletons,
Okay.
which is 1 class and it has 10 kids in it, that's a problem. You shouldn't have offered the class. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So,
understand.
yeah.
Good clarification, because I was thinking of, I don't know what you just called those.
Singletons?
That's the stuff, I was not thinking anything that progresses, because obviously, like you said, Spanish 5, you're gonna have a low number, but I definitely wouldn't support closing off something like that, because that's,
Well, I'm sorry to keep going on about this. French 4 and 5. I know some of the kids were upset about that. That was decided a year ago, and the reason they combined 4 and 5 is because they only had like 6 kids that wanted to take French 5. And then the other one was children's literature and creative writing. Those were cut a year and a half ago. That wasn't part of the efficiency plan. So both of those we'd like to bring back, but they were reduced because the class sizes were way too small. So how some of these other ones ended up so small, I don't know. It's just something we're going to look at and try to get more classes that the kids want to take based off what they're taking right now. That's the goal.
And have we built in when we're gonna have the 2 surges that are gonna be seniors and freshmen? I just learned my child that's in 6th grade is a surge, and you've already got the surge freshman class, and you're gonna have both of them in here in 3 years?
You'll get this spreadsheet next week, but it has all of the projections on it.
Okay.
So this, John Fennell's going to go over this next
Okay,
week.
'cause I didn't know that he was a surge, but I guess he was.
yes.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the surge? A bubble.
It's just,
Big
we have a
class.
couple classes.
Um,
For example, 2017, we'll have 2,116 kids in the district.
If
or in the high
the
school.
numbers flow exactly, transpose.
Well,
56.
just based off of the kids we have in seats right now.
Right.
So,
Right.
and considering our kindergarten classes stay the same size as we've had the last 5 to 10 years.
we did lose about 65 last year, right, according to ODE's.
Total, but there's that bubble, that 3-year bubble that everybody.
And those were spread across all the grades. which was
Well,
65.
we did, but our kindergarten class is 396 right now. So, no.
It's back up.
Yeah, it's back up. It's higher than what we graduated. So we have seen a bit of a spike. We have 1,688 kids in the high school right now.
I kind of think that we're gonna, because honestly, I see Springboro getting a lot more attractive.
We're going to be in trouble if
to
it does.
business and to residents.
We're talking out there in the community, they're all going to
I
move
need to
here.
stop talking good about Springboro and, oh.
If we have a boom in growth, yeah,
Terrible
it
place to
could be a
live.
problem for us.
There is a boom in growth coming when the market turns. There's 7,000 plat-approved lots in Springboro and Clearfield Township.
Well, when John goes over these next week, all he's done is rolled forward numbers.
Yeah.
Based off of some birth rates in here. But when he goes over these next week, yeah, we all of a sudden get 300 or 400 kids in. I mean, we have room for them, but it would be tight. Jonathan, right, get it over.
You're
Oh,
pointing there's two bubbles at the same time.
There's
Yeah,
actually-
in high school at the same time,
It's
which I
actually,
didn't know.
it's actually three. We didn't realize it was that much. We peak out in 2017 and 18 with 2,116 kids in the high school. But even all out to 2020, we still have 2,053. So we go up gradually and we decline gradually. That's the tough thing about it, so.
Okay, well, two things I wanted to say is that one, you're talking about a singleton class, and I've always mentioned, but we've never done anything about it. I would love to see debate put back in, and I don't think it was promoted, but that would be a singleton. And I think it was canceled because, and this is back before you, it was canceled because it only had 10. What an academically challenging, wonderful class.
Well, and understand, I know when I come across it, there is a degrading tone there, and that's not my intent.
No,
With some of these AP classes, if the board looked at me and said, we want a psychology, an AP psychology class at the high school, and it may take 3 years to get it there. I would like to see Mandarin started in second grade here. When Jim talks about a K through 12 course of study, I would like to see Mandarin started in second grade. There's an investment when you do that. And that's one of the reasons that it takes to build it. So there is an investment in some of these classes. So I'm giving you the numbers. If the board feels they like those numbers, you can tell me we'll keep it that way. Otherwise, we're going to try to tap in and increase some ACT classes and art classes and to do the online learning. And hopefully that will balance things a little bit so that we can feed back towards our elementaries. I think we have to have that one, don't we?
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention was I have been talking to realtors since that beautiful Olentangy commercial for OSBLC came out. I have talked to realtors around, I did thank them for the kudos to OSBLC, but I've talked to realtors around town and they have said that they're bringing people through that say specifically, I want Springboro schools. I will not go outside of Springboro schools, so it's all.
Well, my best friend owns Associate Construction, and they own most of Stone Ridge, and then Carlisle and Germantown. Springboro, they have sold 40 houses this year in Springboro. So my comment is to him is, go focus on Carlisle and Germantown. I mean, throw us in the.
Well, I think it's caused housing values to go up. I mean, it's not
It
all
has.
negative. There's some positives to all that. But I've heard of businesses that have left their surrounding areas and come here to Springboro because the taxes are so much less. Anyway, we'll move on. Anybody else, any other public participation? Yeah.
First of all, I want to commend Dimitri. I think having to go through courses, figuring out what's going to stay, what's going to go, it's not an easy decision. And I think it's wonderful that adjustments are being made. I mean, you recognize that maybe we do need to learn our teacher back, and we can't offer classes for 6, 7, 8 students. I mean, it's just the way it is. But it's like you were talking about,
I'm gonna let you finish, but that wasn't what we were doing. Go
Let
ahead.
me finish. The contract was for analysis of a conversion in for charter school. And even at that time, you weren't saying this is meant for give students. You were saying, well, maybe this is one unmet need. It was Don Miller that said at that meeting, why are we only going this one direction? Why not look at STEM? Why not look at these other things? I was all for it. I'm all for this. The objection was on that focus. All those people that objected, they were not objecting to doing more for gifted students. That's just blatantly false. And to have you sit there and say that, I just can't let it go.
Well,
Unanswered.
that's fine. Well, thank you for your comments. But to follow up, we were saying all along, that was one investigation of one option. And we had to follow through on that investigation. There were other investigations happening at the same time. They just didn't have to cost money. This one did because we had to know the downsides, the upsides. We had to know all the financials involved in putting one whole building as a special school within a school. So nobody ever said we're just investigating one thing. We always said we're investigating everything. This one's going to take some expertise. That's what we said. And the objection was because he might have known somebody and oh my gosh, there's some, I mean, it was really something I didn't think I'd ever run into in Springboro. I thought people would say, yeah, absolutely, let's do our homework on that one, let's do our homework on that one, let's do our homework on that one. That isn't what I got. I got shut it down because somebody may have some conflict. So anyway, discussion of other business?
Honestly,
You can do that now.
I don't,
Discuss other
I mean,
business.
honestly, I don't want to go back up and down this hill, but I don't think it was that way either, to be honest.
Well, there's two.
I mean, and it's just, I'm not gonna, it just doesn't make sense. Why do we keep talking about it? Why do we keep just promoting and saying there was one thing? I would agree to just drop it and move forward, but to be quite honest, I do struggle with this. I struggle with hearing that it to look differently now. So I would propose that, I'm not out here trying to say my side of the story, and I would just propose that we just move forward and just be excited about what's news on the table.
I think that's the best thing. I mean, there were problems with the contract at the time. There were other things going on. So we just need to move forward. We're moving forward together. We're getting the STEM school. It's
Okay, any other business as required? Mr. Petroni? Or as,
Logs. I agree.
I
What I say.
I did get a copy snippet of probably the stream, and I was pleasantly surprised to see names of people who were actually asking some of the sarcastic, or whatever the right definition word is, spirited, I don't know what the right word is, to actually stand down. So that was appreciative, and it was nice to see. It was surprising to see, but it was nice to see. I noticed a couple more accusations out there about conflicts of me again, which I feel is amazing, and it's unfounded, but they're there. And I don't want to go back to that, but it was a tool in the toolbox that could have sat on a shelf, like our strategic plan that we adopted in '98 or 2012, see on a shelf. And since that time, I've been asked a dozen times, and I said, I don't have the answer for you, not you, but staff, I don't have the answer for you. You could have gone and gotten somebody to go do some research and do something, put it on the shelf, and then make a decision. That's really what it always was, but it got so blown up into, for me, that's what it always was a tool. And that's what I keep saying here. Tools, Motoman, a tool for our kids, make us competitive. I'm glad, I hope we get to Motoman, but their business, they were ready 18, 19, 22 months ago to do something with us. I mean.
Well, they jumped all over Centerville.
That's just part.
I don't know, they're here, and these guys have done a lot of work to wrap it into something, but because of whatever the word is, because a year ago when I was there in February and we were meeting with these professionals and executives, and then we're meeting with the Department of Education and Sinclair for meeting after meeting after meeting, and then Todd and Tim, and we had some, anyway, I don't think it sailed, but it's going to take commitment from our side of the table That's why I said, why don't we buy a couple robots? They're only 20, they said I got $25,000 each. My gosh, you got a technology budget, move $25,000 out, get a couple robots and get a teacher teed up and let's go do it. I don't know. But we don't do that here because I just said something we don't do here, okay? But that's what business does. They say we got a need. They need workers. They need people. They need 30 people. They want kids to put in a pipeline so they can take a cultural thing. And we got it 2 years ago. And I said, let's go buy some computers. So I'm saying it again tonight to everybody. Let's think about buying some computers or some robots or getting a teacher excited about doing this, like we said on January 29th, when we voted $100,000 to set aside to help a teacher go do something. We got $75,000 in the budget again this year for the board to do something special. If this is something special, let's go and use it if we have the resources available. And let's do it. But we had that in January 29th of 2012. And nobody stood up to it. Nobody came forward on it. It's still there. We reduced it to $25,000, but it's there for us to do something. So I commend you guys for all the effort. Okay, and I'd love to see something happen.
I mean, the robotics, our kids are interested.
Oh my gosh, look at the robotics club. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I know it's kind of tongue in cheek, so, but why not?
Well, we're looking at it right now. That course of study, that's
I'm
the
sure
whole
Roy
thing.
Coordinating would love to get involved with something.
He's been out there. He was originally in the meetings with
The
us.
robot wars already. He's moving forward with that too, because we just interviewed 4 of the kids on 45066 or whatever it is yesterday.
Well, the exciting thing, look at the robotics club that we got into the
That
thing.
was part of it was a
Is that
motivator.
what's there? Well, my kids
Wow.
are taking that now too.
But that's, is it Jerry Brewster?
Yeah, that's different, but
Yeah.
He's put a lot of passion into that.
he had a lot of passion when I met him, when he had like 30 kids, and now we got, what do we got? I don't know, but high school is what I saw.
So,
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm done. I guess I appreciate the comments. It's great to have this kind of dialogue. I got 2 more years and I got some focus, but I'm sitting here only trying to do what we're trying to do for kids. So there's $75,000 in the budget. Board members here interested?
That's not all for robots.
There's another $25,000 in there for board stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Petroli. Mr. Regano?
I have nothing.
Okay. And I wanted to mention that I'm not sure, I'm sure I'll get over it at some point, but my frustration was, I think the opposition was more political than it was anything else. And what made me sad at the time, and still does, is that it took another year. And we said all along it was one tool among many. It was one tool among many. I think that was said 100 times. So I'm willing to get over it. It's going to take a little while. But it seems to me that it's another year that didn't get somewhere, and it was, all your political agenda and all. Who cares? I don't care what the political agenda is. We really want to do good things for kids. And I'm glad this is the year that we are really, really moving. And sorry guys, it's the speed of light, because we're kind of pressuring you, saying, gee, we wanted to get this stuff kind of started a year ago, and it's kind of piling up that we're behind. We're behind other schools, and we're getting D's, and I was the one that said gifted, nobody else did. I was the one that kept saying it, because I have 4 children who I felt were underserved, that were also gifted, and now they're doing extremely well in college. But not that the district has to supply them with all of their needs. I never felt that. But I was sad that kids I knew were not getting what they deserved. And those were the gifted segments of our population here. And that's why I wanted this school. I was the only one that said it, but I was the one that said, let's see if it'll do something for the gifted students. And everybody said, well, we're not sure if that's the group. Let this investigation find out which group could be best served. And I kept saying, it's gifted. It's gifted. But I'm glad now that we're not just giving it lip service. We're really looking into, kids learn differently based on their aptitudes and their brains and how they work. And I'm grateful that we're going to give them some options.
Well, it's a shame we can't hit rewind in life and replay some things.
I don't know. I mean, my
we
kids
would've
are
done some
beyond
things
that
differently
stage,
with
so
that.
it's not, it wouldn't have helped my children, but I knew that there were
Somebody else
children. Yeah, that's right. There was somebody coming behind them. I knew that we're missing a window here, and I was sad about it. I'm still a little frustrated about it.
Your anniversary's a year now, just about, right?
Well, it's over a year. What, about 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah, his is 1 year, yeah.
Yeah,
just
well,
a
she
little
and I
bit.
come on at the same time, so we started last July, so,
You hired her.
yeah.
You know, systems.
I'm not talking about Lee, and I'm talking about, you know,
Oh, yeah.
a whole lot of people at the high school and the junior high and SI. And
I like,
So-
I'm sorry, take this.
yeah, you are. Okay, Mrs. Cole. Deb?
I'm good. I got nothing.
Mr. Miller?
I'm good.
Mr. Petrie?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, we are going to, I need a motion to move into executive session for RC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee or official. Motion, I need a motion. Mr. Miller, I need a second. Mr. Petroni, okay. Roll call.
Miller. Crony. Cole.
Yes.
Yes.
Cole. Cool.
Yes. And Regano. Okay, there will not be action taken. We're done.